And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode, we're going to be catching you up on the Tarkov news from the past week. We got patch 14.95 that just came out probably less than 24 hours ago. We'll go over that, some stuff in there. We got some community news from the TwitchCon event. Various people got to get some information out from Nikita and the BSG team about map expansions and map-to-map travel. We'll talk about that. And I guess from there, we'll kind of just go about some of the other various minor topics. But otherwise, it's pretty much the bulk of what we're talking about today.
Yep, pretty much. A few things have happened. I don't know whether we want to start with the patch. Maybe we'll start with the patch because it's kind of the most important thing. And then we can like double back and talk about TwitchCon and whatever. So let's start with the patch itself. We've got patch 0.14.9.5 right off the bat. And this is mainly a PvE patch, I would say, for the most part. Not exclusively, but mainly PvE. There's a few other things. We have the list of changes, the PvE zone offline single player. For all players with access to the PvE zone, raids for solo players will be run on the local PC. The game experience, as well as the operation of in-game mechanics, is identical to online play. The interesting caveat here, though, is that basically, if you're playing with other people, as we kind of knew that already, if you're playing as a scav, and if you're playing on Streets of Tarkov, the game uses the servers, like BSG's official servers. So there's a couple of like weird caveats there. Like when you're playing with multiple people, I understand that. That makes total sense because they don't have a peer-to-peer setup. That's fine. Raids to the Scav is weird. I speculated in the video that I made summarizing the patch notes that this was down to the fact that you spawn in like partway through the raid. But a lot of people who've been playing PvE said to me, no, you spawn in on PvE, you spawn in at the beginning of the raid as a Scav because there's no one else there, right? There aren't other PMCs. So you spawn at the start of the raid like a PMC. So why would you need to play Scav raids on BSG servers unless there's behind the scenes there's some piece of like tortuous networking or some technical limitation that they just couldn't figure out how to fix or whatever. That's the only thing that I can think was why that would be the case. And then Streets of Tarkov, I mean, maybe it's too much pressure on people's PCs. You know, Streets is already pretty low because of normal scavs. So if you play offline mode without scavs, then it's completely fine. Streets actually plays really, really nicely offline. If you then add scavs offline, it doesn't play very well. When you play online, it doesn't play very well. And then if you add PMC AI as well, it probably makes it like borderline unplayable. Now, it's interesting now that we've seen this patch like go through, loads of people are complaining about the solo stuff. Like it's just not really working very well. Like the FPS is like super low for a lot of people. Most people are saying they're getting half their FPS on every map. So like customs, people getting 140, now they're getting like 70 FPS running on their own machine. Yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of issues with it. Like right at the beginning as well, people were loading into the game and they couldn't actually like get in. They could actually not necessarily getting in. I don't think was the issue. It was more when you finish a raid, the screen was just going black and then never coming back. And I had that on PvP, but that went away after like one or two raids. But PvE, it was having loads of problems. Like people were getting lack of progression. You were like able to Alt F4 in the middle of a raid and get your stuff back.
Yeah.
And also, like it was just going really crazy. So I don't know. It seems like a bit of an issue. I mean, lots of people are obviously referencing SPT and being like, you can play SPT and there's, you know, there are performance problems, but it's not as bad as like BSG's version and da da da. I think it's just their AI routines are probably not that optimized. It's always been an issue for PSG. So
yeah, that's what I mean. I actually missed this first line about the Streets of Tarkov scav part because I was like, what is Giga talking about? I don't remember this at all. But that actually might make sense because if you're gonna shift all the, you know, effectively not all, but like the bulk of the like part of the network load is split, or the AI processing is split on the network, like the servers, the game servers. So if you shift it all to the local PC, then yeah, there's gonna be a performance hit, right? That's why people are seeing drop frames, although it sounds like there's other issues and etc stuff. But regardless, that might be why they set this up for Streets, because it is a like big intensive map, but it's just kind of weird that it's only for group raids as a scav. Like I don't know. Yeah, I wonder why. Maybe because of I don't. Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe
I don't know why scav raids. I don't understand that.
Maybe because you're spawning mid raid and it's gonna load like all like the PMC count plus the scavs. Like I'm not really sure how BSG handles some of that stuff. Like I know there's like modders have done optimizations where it's more like it calculates the player's position relative to all those zones it can spawn. Because I think base game has like a wave system where like 5 minute cycle and it's like boom, spawn all the scavs or whatever. But anyways,
it's just interesting that people say though that like you start at the beginning of the raid as a scav, so it's like no different.
Really?
So I just had a thought.
So weird.
Which is maybe the reason. So I think they said in a future update they're going to fix the how do I say this? They're going to fix the fact that PMCs and scavs on the AI side don't interact. So I don't think AI PMCs shoot AI scavs. And I still don't think they do. I mean, I haven't played PvE, so I'm just going off what people have been saying. But if that logic isn't in place, then you wouldn't be able to play as a scav offline because the AI PMCs wouldn't shoot you. They would only be hostile to you if you're PMC. So if you're flagged as a scav, maybe it just doesn't work right now. So if you're flagged as a scav, maybe the AI PMCs won't shoot at you because you're not flagged as a PMC, like a real player PMC. Because I think that's like, there's one thing people have been saying, that the interfactionality just doesn't work, right? The PMC faction AI doesn't shoot at scav AI. And so maybe that's just broken. So that maybe is the reason. But anyway, it doesn't, it is what it is. So anyway, people are having issues running it on their own PCs. I do think it's slightly surprising because like you can run offline mode normally. It must just be something to do with the PMC AI. But I don't know. So we've got I guess, well, they kind of did this in a funny order. Well, we'll just do it in the order that is on here. So the next thing they added, which is the wish list, which is kind of cool. This thing basically, so there's like 5 categories now. I wonder actually, do I have the picture here? I think I've got the picture like. So there's 5 categories in the wish list. You've got tasks, equipment, hideout, other, and barter. And those lists are empty to begin with.
I see.
Right at the start, except for hideout. So what you can do, so there's basically two options now. There is, you can manually tag any item with these particular categories. And then there's also there's like a menu option now in the main menu, which is automatically flag hideout crafts and hideout like upgrades with the hideout tag. So if you don't do anything with the system, the way the system is set up by default is nothing is flagged except for the automatic flagging of hideout and crafting items is turned on. And so what this has done is, and it's also slightly misleading in the menu because it says like highlight crafting items. But what it means, it turns out, because I was confused because I went through all the crafts and stuff and like some of them were highlighted and some of them weren't. And it was all a bit confusing. And we worked out basically that it's favorited crafts that get highlighted in particular. So it's the inputs to favorited crafts that get highlighted here. So people have like, random stuff highlighted in their inventory to start with. So it's any crafts that they've got favorited is automatically highlighted by default. You can turn that off. Or you can have it be, I can't remember exactly what the default is, whether it's just the crafts one or whether it's crafts and hideout. But anyway, you can have it like no automatic flagging. You can have just favorite crafts, or you can have crafts plus hideout upgrades. There's no way to do hideout upgrades without crafts, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. And then there's a second menu as well, which allows you to turn notifications on or off for different crafts. For different wishlist items. There's none, which doesn't give you any notifications. And then there's enable all of them, which means that anytime that you pick up an item which is wishlisted, it gives you a little notification in the bottom corner. And that's the same for if you pick up any craft. Like, you can do it basically off, on, in raid only, or in stash only. And in stash only is a bit like, like in stash only is like kind of why? Because the only thing that you're going to get wishlisted items from in the stash is the hideout or from like the traders for a quest reward. I can't think what else you would get. Maybe insure, like, can you insure anything that's on? I mean, technically you could insure something on the wish list, but anyway, the stash one seems kind of silly to me. But there is, you could do it anyway. It gives you the flexibility in case you wanted to.
Yeah. That's actually really cool, though. I mean, I'm kind of like surprised at the depths that they like. I didn't really understand it, the concept of a wish list, because I'm like, well, you already have favorites. Like, what's a wish list? But now that I
Yeah.
see the full details of it, it makes sense. And I didn't realize it was going to be like in the raid as well as like an option, which is like, oh my god, the quality of life there is insurmountable compared to what we used to have to do. Like, god, wiki on one monitor if you're lucky enough. Probably most people got like the phone, a little like the Reddit post that's like a 4K resolution of all the items you need for this, and you're like, got
Yeah.
your thumbs on your screen trying to blow it up, enhance, see what you need. So yeah, that's actually really cool. I mean, I really like that.
hmm So the actual thing, so with that context, right? I wanted to give that context first before we read it, because it doesn't necessarily make sense otherwise. So it's like players can add an item to one of several pre-created wish lists. The items added to the wish list are displayed in a separate section of the handbook, and that's important actually because say you are at the beginning of a new wipe,
Hmm.
you can wish list stuff that you know you need that is rare that you don't need like right now. For example, so quest items aren't. There's no automatic flagging for quest items, unfortunately. But you could go into the handbook. So items that you don't have, you can go into the handbook and you can flag, lead
Oh,
X's, fuel
that's really
conditioners,
smart.
like propane tanks, whatever. So you can put those into the tasks list right at the beginning of the wipe,
Wow.
and then you'll know that you need that stuff, throughout. And you can look through the hideout stuff as well. That's like also not yet, but you're going to come onto it, but you haven't got there
Hmm.
yet. Like it won't automatically flag those either, or crafting inputs for things that you're going to need as well that you haven't actually got onto. Like those won't be flagged because you won't have the module yet because you haven't got it favorited, but you know you need it. Like you can go through and prep all of that stuff. So that is quite, because I was like, what's the point of it being in the handbook? That seems pointless. And then I was like, actually, this is really valuable.
Yeah.
Um, so that's like super, super cool. Because otherwise, yeah, if you don't have the item, you need the item. That's what you want
Right.
to wishlist it
Right.
for. Like, so you probably don't have it. So how do you wishlist it if you don't have it? Um, so yeah, wishlist items have unique visual differences. They give you notifications, customize frequency. Yeah, and then you have the automatically add items needed for the hideout to the wish list. And the wish list persists after wipes. You can clear the list manually in the in-game settings. So if you've screwed it up and you want to start again, there's just a clear all wish list button. Also in the main menu, it's just
Okay.
underneath this. It's basically on the front page of the settings. It's like on the
Hmm.
very first settings game page. It's like you scroll down, there's one where like show or hide the toolbars, all of that stuff. It's like at the bottom of that. And there's the three ones. It's like notification settings, the wish list automatic flagging section, and then clear the wish list is like the final line.
Hmm.
So it's cool. I like it. It's good. I actually
Yeah.
just did it. Loads of people keep coming into my chat and being like, how do I get rid of all of these like annoying symbols? Like, where have these all come from? Like, why are they here?
Hmm.
Because of how they've set the default. So I literally just posted a video basically being like, here's how it works. Because it's not really that obvious. And
Oh,
like what the notification thing mean.
is that in your patch video you did?
No, I literally just posted one just now. That's why I was like slightly
Oh,
late.
okay.
So I posted one just now basically saying this. And it's like, yeah, you can use the handbook to add the stuff. You need to favorite the craft, otherwise it won't show up. And here's how you turn it off. And this is the reason why it's on in the first place. So it's because it's weird, right? Because it shows up. So I've got like a bunch of M37 grenades, which I'm using in raid because I find them quite fun, and they, you can throw them real high, and people don't expect them.
Yeah.
Like I've been enjoying myself with those grenades recently, but they're an input for the green powder. So green powder is a favorited craft of mine, so all of mine are wishlisted. When I first got in the game, I was like right clicking on it, being like, well, I can't. It only says add to the wish list, and the remove from the wish list button is grayed out. But it's
I
because it's
see.
automatically assigned in the settings
Right.
menu. So you can, it's like a global automatic thing as
Hmm.
opposed to like
Hmm.
it's not there of all the categories. It's like 5 categories. It's like this. It's 00000. It's not assigned to any category, but it's automatically flagged in a separate process. So
Yeah.
you can't remove it. You could, because it's weird because you can add it to the hideout list and then remove it from the hideout list, but it's just going to stay wishlisted no matter what because of this extra process overlay on the whole system. But it's nicely designed. It's okay. Like the only like criticisms that I have of it, firstly, why you can't just put hideout upgrades on, why you have to have crafts
Yeah.
and hideout upgrades.
Yeah.
Because the only way to avoid that is to unfavorite everything, which is like kind of annoying.
Hmm.
So you can avoid it, but like, yeah, you're not allowed to use the favorite system anymore. And the other one is that they put the wish list, like control at the top of the menu, church. It's like, it's literally the first thing. And so it's moved every option down by one. So when you right click, When you want to like filter by item, you
Oh
accidentally click
yeah,
inspect. When you
yeah,
when you want to do inspect, you accidentally click wish list. So it's like it's really annoying. It's an administration tool, right? It should be at the bottom. It should be
yeah,
right at the
yeah,
end. Like you don't need to click that in raid. You don't need to click that quickly. You don't need to click that while you're managing your hideout. Nothing like that. It's like it's so irritating. They should just move it down. It's basically screwed like, tens of thousands of people out of their muscle
yeah,
memory. Like
yeah.
it's just completely pointless. That's the same for the surveys thing, which is coming up next, by the way. But yeah, the
Hmm.
button for that is also next to characters. So now everyone just keeps clicking surveys, and there's no surveys. There's not even a survey in there. So it's like you click surveys, it's just like coming soon, some surveys. You're like, no, I want to click character. Like, god damn it.
Uh,
Yeah, it's just like why?
that's really cool. I mean, like, kudos to them. I think it's. I don't know. I'm kind of like flabbergasted. Like, huh? The BSG doing these features in my video game? It's just kind of crazy. So
Yeah, I
like,
have
yeah,
people all
I
over
want to
my
like,
comments just still being like, "Oh, it's SPT," and this has been in SPT for years, and I'm just like, "Good,
yeah,
stop complaining. It's good. Like it's good that they're listening. Like, guys, come on. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah,
a win, right? We've turned a corner in terms of mentality around this stuff. Like, take more ideas for it. I don't care how long it's been in SPT. Like,
for
I
sure.
I get that people are sort of venting their frustration of being like, "Oh God,
Yeah,
I can't believe it's taken them this long." Like that's
yes,
valid,
yeah.
but being like, "Oh, this is an SPT," like, "Oh, what are they doing?" It's just like weird, right? Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, to like, I'm not fully versed on all the mods, but like one of the ones I remember was no, like, that's like similar to this was nowhere near. Like, this has a lot more customization, and like it seems really well thought out. Like the handbook thing, I feel like that would have been an easy mistake to miss. Like if I was designing the system, I feel like I would have missed
Yeah.
that. So like, kudos. Like I gotta give props to them. I feel like they did a really good job as far as like the design aspect, the user experience, though maybe a little bit of the miss with the shifting everything down when you right click. Now it defaults to wish list, but otherwise, it sounds really robust. So like, kudos to them.
Yeah, I think this is the thing, and I've said this a couple of times. Like, I don't know whether they had a change of heart or whether they had a change in management or hierarchy or a new person or
Uh
something.
huh.
But at some point, BSG seemed to change, and it was before the Unheard Edition debacle. Right? I keep telling people, they're like, "Oh, they got to make amends after Unheard Edition debacle." I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, they've been doing good stuff for ages. Like the Unheard Edition debacle was unfortunately like unprecedented in scale. I'm right in the middle of all of the good stuff they were doing. Like patch 14 had already happened and was amazing. And they had started listening to people before Unheard. It's very unfortunate the Unheard thing happened because it was like one blip, but
Mm-hmm.
the blip of like enormous
The
magnitude, right,
biggest
in the
blip you
center.
can
The
imagine.
biggest blip ever, which is a real shame. Because outside of this, things like, the ammo packing tool and like
Uh
stuff
huh.
like this, systems that they've been implementing recently have been robust, have been well thought out. It's quite different to how it used to be designed. So like I do feel like there was a step change at some point, and maybe it was somebody, I don't know, maybe it was somebody who was maybe changing people, or I don't know, I'm not sure, but something seemed to happen. So I don't know. Um, yeah, can you see it there?
Yeah, well, I switched it to. So I got the handbook open. I was playing with the
Hmm.
settings while you're talking, and I switched it to crafting recipes, which it didn't up. Like I don't have a wish list anymore. But if I switch it back to the default, which was all hideout items, it should show. Yeah, so it's got a wish list here, which has looks
Is it
like
because you don't
intel.
have any? I think it's because you don't have any favorited crafts.
I would have thought I did. Let's take a peek real quick. And it's been a while since I booted up the old hideout
Now,
and crafted.
favorited crafts can get deleted for various reasons.
Mm,
If you play on a different account, I think originally when you were playing Arena, I don't know if that still happens, but if you play Arena, it would delete your favorited crafts. So
okay,
favorited crafts get
yeah,
wiped quite easily.
yeah. These
At
did
least
get
they did in the
wiped.
past.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't have any, which is then the reason why when you do favorited crafts or crafts only, that's why it then doesn't show up anything in the handbook because there's nothing on the list because there's no favorited crafts.
Okay. Yep. That checks out. So now if I do just crafting recipes and we go back to the handbook because I saved a favorite, so it shows the. Okay, yeah. I mean, this is nice. So it's showing the bolts, the metal fuel tank, metal cutting scissors, all the components for the grenade case,
Mhm.
craft in the laboratory. Which, yeah, um, I don't know, man. This is like really. It's also super interesting that all the. I don't even know, but there's a segment here, like a category for quest items, and it's showing all the quest items asterisk. I'm not sure if it's also like not all
Huh?
the quest items, but just the ones I've done. Am I crazy? It's at the
Oh,
bottom.
this is found in raid items.
Yeah,
This is any item that isn't a real item.
correct.
I don't know whether this has been there before. I'm assuming that they're all automatically flagged as quest items no matter what. There is no ability to like remove that because these are all quest items definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what like it gives you a notification when you pick one up
Yeah.
because it's a quest item. So it'll say, oh, you picked this thing up and it's on your quest item list or whatever. Like maybe this is just exposing the system that shows you like the sub part complete system or whatever. It could be, but yeah, this is all of the like. It looks like it's all the
How
non.
many?
Although key to the close premises of the health resort is a real item. This looks like it's a combination of quest item. Yeah, it's basically anything that's like unquestionably a quest item. So anything that's like it's real items and items that go in the quest inventory. It's both.
Hmm.
I was wrong originally,
Do
but if they're all
you
unquestionably quest items.
do you also have 67 quest items in your category?
I would have thought so. I'll open the game up. I don't have it open at the minute.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I thought you were looking at your game, but you're actually looking at my game.
Yes.
I forgot we have the technology. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious, but I wonder if that's an oversight or intentional. But I'm not even sure if it matters if it is an oversight because, like, you know what I mean? There's the wiki. It's like, what's the difference? Like, oh no, they're gonna discover what the item looks like that they're looking for, not the blue
Yeah.
flash drive marked with blue tape. You can see it.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
it matters.
Yeah, I
I think it's
feel
quite
like,
cool to have it though.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if it really does much utility wise, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Some of
I,
these are
I don't
like
think that's been there before. Maybe it was, but I just never noticed. I probably wouldn't have noticed if it was because
it's
like
new to me,
people
but
don't use the handbook really.
yeah, that's a fair point. Anyways,
Yeah.
pretty cool. What do we got next on the patch
So
notes here?
next on the old list, we have got. Let me just go back to this. Game is hogging all of my real estate. So yeah, in-game feedback surveys. Add as a community feedback survey system within the game, available at the surveys tab in the bottom menu. I quite like that it's in-game, and well, I don't know. Like, I thought it was going to go on the launcher, but in-game is
Mm-hmm.
fine because people can, fill it out while they're like waiting for friends or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Grant had a good idea, basically saying, "Oh, they should add it to like the loading screen, so you
Yeah.
could do it in the loading screen." It's just like, wouldn't we like so many things to be in the loading screen? Like, it should be there as well. But anyway, completing surveys helps improve the quality of the game. Players can earn in-game rewards for completing surveys. There's not much more to say about that. Yeah, they've been saying they were going to add that for a bit. Then we've got some AI adjustments for PvE. AI PMCs pick up items and loot crates, trying to choose valuable loot. They pick up weapons and equipment, and they replace their equipment with better items when they find it. They can go all over the place and move in tactical formation, collect loot and wait for enemies for some time, set up ambushes. They extract when they've collected enough loot or enough time has passed. They now sprint more often when in open terrain. Ground zero, they're now under level 20. And then this is a funny one. AI will now react to the enemy if information about them comes from any nearby bot. For example, if you're spotted by a bot and they yell, all bots, regardless of faction, will hear it. Apparently, basically what happens now is because the AI has been like improved a bit. I don't know whether it's like loads better, but I think it's a bit better. But because they don't fight each other, apparently you can like shoot one place. So you just have to bring tons of ammo to PvE, is what I've heard. Because you shoot one place and then you just get like swarmed by AI.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. You get PMCs, you get scavs. Like it's absolutely bonkers. You need to take like tons of ammo, tons of mags with you because they're not necessarily that hard, but you just have to fight like billions of them, which is like really weird. Apparently, PvE is kind of like horde mode now because of this. So maybe it's a little overtuned. Someone was also saying if you like throw a bag on the floor or something, then like all the like AI will come towards it slowly
Wow.
across the map or something stupid like that. I don't know. So it's not working perfectly, but it's AI scouts will travel over location as well. They're less picky about loot. They move between potential loot destinations and tactical formations as a group. And this is the first iteration of AI improvements. They said they're going to refine it and then here it is, as well as the interaction system between AI of different factions, like which literally doesn't exist apparently, as far as what people have told me. And in future updates, that'll be moved to PvP. So it's quite funny. PvE may well be, it's beta for the beta. So PvE is the beta AI testbed for PvP. It's very useful, Anyone who's playing PvE, you guys can all be guinea pigs for the PvP players. It's like, again, it's the beta for it's the ETS server for the PvP server. ETS to put it on. You test it in ETS,
right?
Then it goes on PvE,
yes,
and then if it all works on PvE, then it moves to PvP. It's like a waterfall. Beta, alpha, testing, early, alpha, gamma, sigma,
and
beta.
Then after that, it'll go to 1.0. And then after that, it's going to go to...
Except 1.0 is going to be completely untested, by the way. So, all of that stuff is going to work perfectly.
Yes. Well, the legendary story quests can't...
The legendary story quests, which are going to be entirely untested, they're going to work perfectly first time, right?
Of course. Absolutely. That's how things go.
It's honestly, I don't know. Okay, I'm not even going to say anything about that.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
No, I did want to just quickly say that I think that's cool that there's like the faction interaction stuff. They're like trying to do something there. I don't know how much it's going to come into play, but I don't know. Overall, I think the one other thing was the looting bots. That's like another... Oh god, I mean, I don't even like attribute this because there's no way of knowing, but there is a looting bots mod in the SPTE realm, so it's like cool to see that coming to Tarkov main, if you will. Whether that was relevant or like directly from SPTE or not, it's irrelevant. It's just cool that now it's going to be like a lot more immersive, because I think it is like kind of a missed opportunity that scavs don't like... AI scavs in particular don't just like walk up path to like a duffel bag and like actually physically loot the items in it, instead of like the fake animation where they just like crouch, stare at the cache for like their guns like shoved up into like their shoulder or whatever. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I have a couple of people in chat saying that apparently AI PMCs will kill scavs, but they might need to be like really close to each other. It might like it's not like the normal system. So maybe it is there, just like not really working very well. So after that, we've got a couple of new tasks. So they've added Nostalgia, the quest line, available only to EOD, available only to owners of the EOD edition. But it's just weird, like available only to owners of the EOD Darkness Edition bonuses. Okay, well, I guess I understand what that means. So if you ever had EOD at some point, then you'll get it. Added a new quest line for obtaining Mark of the Unheard, which is the scavs don't shoot you thing, but that's to PvE. And added a new quest line for obtaining extended PMC pockets, allowing owners of any edition to obtain this item. What's interesting about Mark of the Unheard is I feel like the quest line might be available in PvP, just you wouldn't get the item. Because 3 quests have appeared. This is probably a good time to talk about it. So the first one is called Good Old Times. And that's clearly nostalgia, right? Clearly the nostalgia quest line. And that's from Rapport. I don't know. You should have it, I think.
I think so. I may have to
go and accept it. Yeah, you have to go and accept it from him. But anyway, Good Old Times, you have to kill 10 PMCs whilst wearing a Zabralo, a Kiva helmet, and an M4. So it's a throwback to the first armors. Like at one point, right at the beginning of Tarkov, there was only the Zabralo. It was called the Fort Armor at the beginning, and they changed its name because it's not the Fort Armor. And the Kiva was like one of the best helmets in the game. I think people were telling me it was like class 6. I know there weren't any head hitboxes back then, so you just had class 6 all over your face. Your head was just one big hitbox. So that used to be like the immortal outfit. You used to have the Fort Kiva and then an M4, and that was the deal. So you have to kill 10 players wearing this armor. Now, what's kind of interesting about this quest, you get given one to start with, but you only get one. So getting Zabralos is now really hard, right? They changed So It Good Part 4 or 3, whichever one it was for the Zabralos, but they never really like changed the availability of the Zabralo. The Zabralo is still banned on the Flea, which I don't think it should be, but for the purposes of this quest, it actually makes it more interesting because you have your one Zabralo, and when you die, unless you are level 50 and above, have
Mhm.
completed long line, and then subsequently booze, you can't barter for it or buy it anywhere. There's nowhere to get it.
Yeah.
So I haven't finished long line because it didn't really do anything for me this wipe. And I haven't done booze either, obviously, because it's the prerequisite. So I can't buy another one. I got like 2 or 3 kills or something and then died. And I was like, well, that's the end. So you basically then have to like, and it's on factory as well. It's only factory. You have to go to factory to complete this quest. But what's interesting about this is you can go to factory with another kit and try to kill these people because, you know, these guys are wearing like super heavy armor and they're wearing the kiver. So they can't hear you. So you're actually at an advantage fighting against them. Like you're fighting an uphill battle when you're trying to do the quest. So you go in with something else like MCX or, you know, whatever, like MDR or something like that. And you fight them wearing your ACPC and your class 6 Bastion plate with a, you know, decent gun. And you go and kill them and you take their Sobralo and then you leave and then you try and do the quest again. And it's like the never ending like merry-go-round of Sobralos. So it's like, it's actually kind of an interesting quest. I quite like it. I didn't do that well on it. Like I'm not very good with lack of hearing. God, I had like the craziest one ever where I was like, I got 2 kills and then I left, came into another raid. I went down into like the S bend down in the underground corridors in factory. And I was like, I can't hear anybody here. And I brought in a headset. So I swapped the kiver out and I put my headset on. And I heard like a couple of steps. And then somebody appeared, like not even the way where you can drop down. They appeared from the other side. And I was like, how the hell did they get there fast enough? But needless to say, when I heard the footsteps, I tried to put the kiver back on, but there wasn't enough time, right? And the guy came around the corner and was shooting me while I was in my inventory. So I bailed and just point blank the guy with my small quantity of like 300 blackout AP and killed him. But obviously I didn't have the kiver on, so it didn't count for the quest, which is like really annoying because I had the headset on and I couldn't get the. I was like I had to like quickly swap over to the inventory.
Oh wait, don't you
So
need the
yeah,
M4?
that was very chaotic. Oh, sorry, no, I did have an M4 in that one. Yeah, no, you're right. I did have an M4 in that one. I got confused because I was killing people with
the
CVJ
blackout
and the blackout in between those raids until I swapped over to the
quest
MDR
kit.
again.
M4
and the quest kit. So I've now got another I got another Zabralo. I got it back in insurance of all things. And so I can like give it another go. But it's quite interesting at least. It's quite an interesting little. So that's that one. I'm pretty sure that one is nostalgia. I don't know what happens after that yet. I'm not sure. I think you get another quest too, which is called Hell on Earth. I don't know whether this is part of it or not because I haven't gone onto that yet. When you accept it, yeah, it gives you this Hell on Earth thing. Mine is bugged, and I don't have it. So it showed the quest dialogue in a small pop-up box, and it now doesn't show in my tasks.
You know what? When I accepted Good Times, I decided to let the prepper dialogue box play out. And because, you know, normally you never read those things because they're basically useless. But, you know, I thought it'd be, you know, something for the video watchers. And anyways, I was reading it and it was talking about like a double barrel shotgun. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything about this Good Times quest? That makes no sense. And then now I click on Hell on Earth and I see in the image it's got like a double barrel shotgun on the workbench. And, you know, I think even in the quest dialogue it was talking about mechanics, like building a double barrel shotgun. And here it is. Hell on Earth is talking about double barrel shotgun. So I wonder if they messed up the swapping of the dialogue boxes because I actually did not receive a dialogue box when I accepted Hell on Earth.
Well, something is messed up with it because, as I said, I don't have it. Like I got the dialogue box and the quest is not there. Like I do not have the quest. It's not available. I'm looking at it right now. It just isn't here. I haven't completed it, so I'm just locked out of doing that quest for whatever reason. I don't really understand why. It's a bit weird. But anyway, so that's a reference to Doom. Hell on Earth.
Yeah.
So that's double barrel thing, and it's like a separate line, I believe, that you have to basically like build a double barrel. It's a bit like Gunsmith. You have to build a double barrel shotgun and give it to him. But and so yeah, so it's according to people saying chat. According to the quest, once you accept Good Times, you get the quest. But I don't have it. It's not in my thing. It's not locked. It's not completed. It just doesn't exist for me, which is annoying. Very annoying. Then there is a quest from Fence. So there's the first one is called. It is
Establish contact.
Yes, establish contact, and you need fence rep of 5. That's the quest.
Oh. Did it.
So that's it.
Boom, look
You
at
just
me.
complete it. Mm-hmm.
I'm
And then the next
gaming.
one is friend among strangers. So this is kill 7 PMCs without killing scavs.
Mm.
This I tried to do in tandem with the Zabralo thing.
Oh,
Factory can be kind of annoying. I got to
yeah.
3, and it turns out Tequila counts for this.
Mm.
I found out the hard way.
Technically, he is a scav.
Yeah, I was like, no, he's a boss. He doesn't count for scav kills in the whatever. Maybe they do. Do they count for both bosses and scav kills? I
I
actually
don't
don't know.
know. I
Anyway,
have no
he's
idea.
flagged for this quest, so you can't kill him.
Mhm.
Obviously, you can't kill normal scavs. You can shoot them and hurt them, but you can't kill them. So I wiped 3 kills off my thing, which is really annoying. Other people were speculating that you could go to labs, maybe, because I don't think raiders do count
Oh,
as
yeah. That might work.
scavs. So that might work. I haven't tried that. I imagine that probably will work. And you just have to kill them, right? You just,
Mhm.
whatever. So you just like grind labs until you kill 7 people. So maybe that's the way of doing it. Otherwise, it's factory and you just have to be like kind of careful. I got saved by the fact I was using M9M5 because I shot a scav like 2 or 3 times and I was like, oh, okay. And then I stopped. But because of the low damage, he didn't die, which is quite funny. Okay, so that's that one. And then there is another one from who's the other one? The other
Ragman?
one is Ragman, yeah. And that one is called Invisible Hand. And that one is eliminate any target using a 20 plus container backpack. And so I thought it was quite funny. They're saying like, oh, they hire guys with big backpacks, and there's a guy with like the couch bag in the picture, which I thought was hilarious. But then when you realize it's like 20 plus, it's basically like
Kind of
bigger than a
small.
burqa. It's not very big actually. It's
Yeah.
like pretty much any bag anyone uses, tries it, whatever, they're all big enough to count. So you just have to kill, and it's any target. So you could kill scavs with the pilgrim on. You're most likely going to be killing real players who've got whatever, right? Like really any bag of any sensible size.
Oh, but you have to kill. I see. I was thinking you had to wear the backpack, but no, it's actually going
No.
to kill them. Okay. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So that's not necessarily like hard per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the next set of quests, I don't know what they are yet because I haven't looked it up and I haven't got there. Apparently the second part to Hell on Earth is like go and take the double barrel shotgun and kill cultists, which everyone's like, you what? Like, okay, that's not going to happen. So yeah, some of them are like kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Diego in chat's rightly saying that PMCs can drop their bags and then it doesn't count, which is true.
Yeah.
Which makes the quest quite annoying because a lot of people do drop their bags when they're in combat.
Yeah, it's moderately annoying, but you know what else is new under the sun of Tarkov?
Exactly, you'll get there eventually. Like it's one that you just like can passively work towards. You don't even need to think about it; it'll just happen. So that's kind of okay. So in the blurb on the patch notes, so the first one is this nostalgia one, which I mean I'm still not exactly sure what this is going to give us. I thought that this was the PMC pockets one, but the one at the bottom which says added a new quest line for obtaining extended PMC pockets, that one is not nostalgia because otherwise it would be, well, I assume it wouldn't be on the same line. And I guess that is Ragman's one. And then the middle one, new quest line for obtaining Mark of the Unheard, I imagine that one is Fence's one. So that's why I suspect that you get the quest for Mark of the Unheard without actually getting the item. I think that must be Fence.
That makes sense because it's like all technical.
The scabby thing.
Yeah, it's got like a radio receiver thing in this image on the quest.
Yeah.
I could see that, yeah.
So I think that's...
Wouldn't it be funny?
I think that's that.
Wouldn't it be funny if they messed up and someone like speed ran it and they were able to use it, showcase it?
Yeah,
like
I mean, at this point, I
funny.
actually don't really care anymore. I know they removed it from PvP, but now I don't really care because of how like bad it actually is. But in my I went back and looked at my old notes, and I have like written down nostalgia extra pocket space, and I have written down nostalgia questline unheard bonuses from Tarkov TV in May. So the first part of that is, well, probably false. The second part of that, I don't really know. Like, what unheard bonuses do you get? Well, I'm not really sure over EOD. I mean, maybe you can earn the extra ammo per reset or something. Like, that would be nice if you could do that, because that's one of the things that people are like, oh, it's kind of pay to win. Like, that would be like kind of cool if you could get the extra ammo, because it doesn't really matter early game. So if you could earn the like 20% extra ammo from the traders right from the off, then that'd be awesome. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. People get through to the end of these things, I'm sure, and then we'll figure it out. Wow, so a lot of the quests are already on the wiki. I just haven't had time to go through them all yet. Well, there's loads of them. How have people like got through to this already? This is insane. Dude, this is actually crazy. There's like so many on the wiki. But anyway, we'll see in the fullness of time. It's nice that there's lots of quests. As I said to you before, right, there's like tons of things to do in Tarkov now. I feel like there's loads to do, and especially late game, because there's like a lot of like lines of quests that you can do to get like various things. So you decide like what you want. Do you want bigger pockets? You do this quest line. Do you want the unheard bonuses? You do this quest line. You want M61? You do these quest lines. You want Lightkeeper? You do this set of quest lines. You want Kappa? You do this set of quest lines, right? It's like there's loads of stuff, and you pick. And I quite like that. It's not just like, oh, it's only Kappa and they're all linear and
yeah,
blah blah blah. Like it's cool. There's like lots of different ways to get different things depending on how you want to play the game and stuff. It's fun.
No,
So
I
I
agree.
quite like that.
I like that too. It's like a tree branch progression, because like it used to be very like linear. It was like traders, max traders, and there you go. You got everything. There's like a few things locked, but now they've like diversified and split it up in various ways. So you have to like, you really have been maxing. You gotta like, prioritize. Oh, I really want to achieve this goal because it increases my power level. I'm going to get 300 blackout because I like this gun and the round's really good or whatever. 300 blackout AP. So you do the quest line for that, but you're like, opportunity cost. You're missing out on. You can't do both at the same time. You can't go the streets and do the one where you got to get inside the dealership for M855A1. But yeah, I mean, I just like my only like the other thing I'll say is I do like that aspect, but I think for me the aspect I disliked is the actual quests themselves, like the engage, like how you engage with them. Like just for example, the one where you like eliminate PMCs to operatives without killing scavs. It's just like I love these kinds of quests because it's like you don't really have any way of engaging with it other than like retreating, which is just like I don't know. It's like it's a survival game, so it's like it's many things, but it's a survival game, and it's just kind of I don't know. It's just like I wish I could like do something to interact with them, like lift up my hand, and it's like oh yeah, I'm friendly, and it's like just something a little bit that's just not so like. I don't know. It's like I'm so immersive breaking. It's like, oh, I gotta like jiggle behind the door, shut the door, close the scav in there. It's just like it's so weird. I hate it.
I know what you mean. I kind of don't mind it just from like a mechanical sense because it like makes me think and strategize or whatever. But like from an immersion perspective, I don't think it's necessarily that great having it like that.
Yeah,
but that's probably because of the unimmersiveness of like the scav AI, as you said, more than anything else. Like there's not any way to interact with it, so it could be both, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So some new outfits. Had a quick look. They are for USEC kind of weird. For Bear, I think they're a bit better. You can find them in Ragman. I'm not really an outfits guy, but like you have to get certain levels of rep, and they are in the Ragman section of your like Tarkov profile. You can now wipe your PvE profile, or at least you will be able to once the website is like fixed. I know yesterday the website was still under maintenance, or people couldn't get in, or something like that, so you couldn't use the option. But now, so like PvE never wipes, but you can wipe it yourself if you want to now. Same thing as you always could with your PvP account, or you can wipe them both at the same time. And then they added basically if you reported somebody and they were cheating, then you get some compensation. We don't know exactly how much, but that's kind of cool. Then other than that, it's just a few random bits. Like they just like made LPVOs spawn more in raid. I don't know why. They decreased the vertical recoil on bolt actions. I don't really know why. Hideout management and crafting is easy to level, which makes sense. And they removed the hearing distance from perception, which is actually kind of important.
I mean, I would assume, I like, there's got to be some logic behind what they're doing. Like some of the times, I feel like probably most of the times. So I would imagine the bolt action one, I think, like, yeah, recoil is largely irrelevant, except for the times where you want to like see. There's like this like sweet spot where if your recoil is too high on your bolt action of your scope, you fire the shot, and then by the time the recoil settles and you can see through your optic again, you can't actually see, like, you miss enough time to not know if you hit the target or they made it behind the tree that you were firing at. It's like, oh, did I kill him and he dropped to the ground? Or did he go behind the tree? So it's like kind of weird, and then it's like you gotta rechamber it. So like if they lower the recoil, you should like lower that time in theory, like between the time where your gun is recoiling, you lose sight picture. So it's like maybe it's like a quality life thing, but largely doesn't really matter. And like by how much? I don't even know. I don't know, but that's the only thing I could think of for like why you would do that, and maybe the
Yeah.
logic for optics is like we want more supply of scopes in the game in general, like because there is some like, you know, there's the good ones like the vortex, the couple of the Schmidt and Benders, the um what else is pretty decent here. I mean, I like the PSO scopes for like the dovetail Russian weapons, but definitely not everyone's favorite. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
looks to me like pretty much everything.
a lot of the LPVOs for sure, if not
Yeah.
everything.
I thought that it was going to be because they were going to remove the barter for the voodoo and maybe make them harder to
That's
get access to.
right. Yeah.
But they didn't.
Hmm.
So that was my guess, and it wasn't correct.
Either way, it just seems like some
Yeah.
light quality of life stuff. You know, increasing the supply a little bit. In theory, should drive down the price a bit, assuming we are a free market video game economy.
Yes, I just tried to. Uh, actually, what's happened here? I just tried the XMC in the hideout,
Hmm.
and it seemed kind of the same as before. I mean, I had quite a lot of recall previously, so I don't know. I'm like looking at the weapon rack. I haven't used the weapon rack for ages, but for some reason I can't. Do you have to like physically look at it? They seem to, the button seems to
Um.
have disappeared. Maybe it's here now. Let's see.
Oh, I don't
Oh no,
know.
it's better now. It's fixed now.
Hmm.
I think I had to go and look at it once. I'll just try the M700 as well, just quickly, just to tell you what I think about it. And this is this a good one or is this a bad one? This is a 90 recoil M700. I mean, the AXMC has 234 recoils. That was not really the best kind of like the best one. Oh, it's really low. Okay, it's really low
Hmm.
on the M700.
Interesting. So that must have got a
Like,
pretty decent.
yeah, like if you in the hideout, if you shoot the furthest circle target, the scope jumps to just above the target itself. Yeah, so that's actually like quite a big quality of life thing for Volties. It's disappeared again, the transfer weapons. This is annoying. It's like kind of bugged. Kind of bugged. Anyway, that's the deal there.
Hmm.
So yeah, the most important thing I think of all this stuff is the changes to the perception skill. So I think what did I have previously? I have this recorded down because I did an audio video relatively recently. So at level level 18, I had an increased hearing distance of 5.4%. So you could get, 10, 15% increased hearing distance
Yeah.
previously, if you got it to like max or whatever. But now they've removed it, which is good. We wanted them to remove it for a long time.
I mean, the skill still exists, but you don't get any perception bonuses, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
hearing distance bonuses.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you don't get any hearing distance bonus. And now it does increases. Yeah, it just does the increases loot detection radius thing.
Okay.
That's what it does now. But yes, that
Yeah.
like flattens the playing field slightly between players of different game time because it's
Hmm.
got nothing to do with skill. It's just like how much have you played,
Yeah.
which is just kind of
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I think it's going to also help to make things feel a bit more consistent, and also for the unofficial BSG exclusive testers, Tarkov scientists like yourself, it makes testing a lot more easier because yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, for me, it's like kind of a quality of life thing, um, and also like yeah, like you said, a more competitive, even playing field.
Yeah. So I'm going to probably go and check out the audio ranges just to see like what they are now, because now they're going to be the same for everyone.
Yeah.
And they would have been influenced a little bit before. I mean, it shouldn't make that much difference when I did my headset comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, where did I save mine? I think, did I put it? Sounds video. Oh yeah, it was here. So it was, the longest distance was contact fours and running overweight, which was 68 meters. I mean, if the 5% thing is correct, then it should now be 65 meters from 68. So like it's a couple of meters. It shouldn't make that much difference actually. But we will see, because the percentages, it's like, what does the percentage actually mean
Right.
in the game? Like, is it a percentage
Yeah.
volume? Is it like, who knows? Because then like it's like, sound is weird, and sound's not like, I don't think they set it by distance or anything. I think it's just a result. I think the distance is like an output of the sound engine. Right,
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
an audibility. There's
there's
an attenuation curve, and like how aggressive that attenuation. It's not like they say, oh, the maximum is going to be 65. It just so happens that it's an exponential decay, and that goes below audibility at a certain threshold point. So 5% might actually be more or less than we think. It might not make any difference. The audibility might be exactly the same. It might be huge. It might be 10 meters. So I need to go and check. That combined with wearing the kiver, though, I did feel quite bad, I will say. But I mean, I never wear the helmets without headsets. So like the combination, I went from like pre-patch wearing headsets to like playing with the kiver on factory, and I was like, I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Because did they change that too not too long ago? The hearing? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, plus too, if it's like, depending on the ore operations, let's say they set it up to where like, your base is like 50 hearing distance units or whatever, and then it's like it gets multiplied by your skill, or it gets multiplied by your headset first, and then it's like, then it gets multiplied by skill, and then now that they're taking that away, it's like, or maybe it starts with I done messed up the analogy. But you know what I'm saying? If it's like, ore operations could matter where it affects it.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. Because you go from like underweight running is like 53 meters to 63 meters. So it's like, okay, well, how exactly does that apply? And like, where's the threshold? And maybe then it like feels like more than 5%. I don't know. It's hard to know. It's hard until I go in and test it. Yeah, so that was basically that. There's some other just random changes, but just fixing stuff. So that's the patch notes. It's pretty good overall, I would say. Pretty good. New quests are fun and interesting, at least. It's like something else to do. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Other than the PvE thing, but I'm not really playing PvE, so but the wishlist stuff's nice. I like new quests. New quests to do is good to get the player base doing the thing, which is kind of cool. What is slightly interesting is, I know that they said, so on the TwitchCon like stage, they actually pre-announced this patch, and they made a tweet about it, so people like kind of knew what was coming even before the patch notes were released. Like, we already knew broadly what was going to be in there. This patch was supposed to be, if we go to the actually, do you have the roadmap to hand? Let me
I don't think so now.
Because I'll send it to you, because otherwise it won't make much sense for the. Well, it'll just be easier to follow along for people who are watching on video. So the original patch that this was supposed to be running in was the very final. It's the last one on the top line. Once you've got it up, because that one said expansions and bonuses for EOD and the Unhid Edition, armor system adjustments, and PvE AI improvements. That was the very far right hand side one, as well as balancing changes, whatever that was supposed to mean. So that is this. So they said that was going to be moved to July, because that was supposed to be end of June, but it got moved to July. Then if you look at the first entry on the second line, that was also still technically June. And that one that one has got on it in-game pulse system and quality of life improvements, which presumably is the wish list. But then it also has purchasable PvE mode for all editions. So that must have moved because you can't do that yet. So that must have moved into July or maybe even later. Because the July one is the arena one with the new map, the new game mode with asymmetrical gameplay, attack and defense, and quality of life improvements. If you go to, I actually didn't put this in the document that we usually use to share the stuff, but if I go to Dimitri, where is it? Where is he? Where is he? I can't find him. Anyway, I can't find it. It doesn't really matter. Basically, he replied to somebody saying it's coming soon, this new game mode, which is a good time to talk about what the new game mode is. It's got the worst name of all time of anything. It's like, it sounds like a mobile game designed for 12-year-olds.
Oh no!
So they just, I know it's like a language thing, but like they could have just asked somebody to help them name it or something. Like get somebody to help them. I don't know what it's like in Russian, but anyway, it's in English. It's called Blast Gang.
Oh my god, that's genuinely awful.
Which is a terrible name.
Blast Gang.
Yeah, it's awful. Really
Blast Gang.
It's one of the worst.
God.
It would be difficult to pick something worse.
Yeah, that has to be a translation thing.
It's like bottom of the barrel. Somebody in chat says, Trey says, I think it's a mistranslation of Bomb Squad, which actually would be a much better name.
It would be a much better name for sure. For sure.
Blast. Bomb Squad would be a great name. Actually. Yeah, that would be really good.
It sounds a little bit like some other game, but it doesn't really matter. It's like leaps and miles better than, what was it, Blast Gang?
Blast Gang, yeah.
Oh my god,
it's like so weird. It's like such a weird name.
Yeah.
It's such a weird name for it. But anyway, they showcased Blast Gang at TwitchCon. So TwitchCon EU happened last weekend. It was in Rotterdam. I was maybe going to go, and then I ended up not going because it was, unless I'm getting sent by somebody, it was going to cost me like £1,300 to go, which I wasn't going to pay for myself. So that's great. Because air travel's just crazy here, and all the hotels. And to be fair, I was looking late as well, in fairness. So like all the hotels that were like remotely close to the place were like €300 a night. So I was like, okay, that's pretty crazy. But anyway, so they did a bunch of stuff there. They had like some arena show matches and that kind of thing. They showed off this new game mode on the new map, which is called Skybridge, I think, which I don't really know why it's called Skybridge either, because it's like in a train station. So it doesn't seem like, I don't really know.
The name translation error.
Maybe. I mean, it's very, very weird. But anyway, the map looks kind of cool. It's like trains and stuff. It seems kind of fun. People who played it, like I don't know the intimate layout of the map because I haven't played it myself. But people were saying that it's like 3-lane, like it's kind of classic, like Call of Duty competitive map design kind of thing. So people like it, at least for those who like arena. And I watched like a little bit of the tourney, and they've added like quite a lot of quality of life stuff from spectators. So there is actually X-ray now for spectating and things like that, which makes it like 1,000,000 times more watchable. So it's like a lot more fun rather than, because otherwise you're just looking at like people corner peeking walls and like you can't see what's happening at all as a spectator, because like you can't really hear as well as the competitors, and it's just really hard to follow along otherwise. So that's really cool. And what was I going to say about that? There's something I was going to say about what was I talking about before to introduce this? Like, how did we end up onto this in the first place?
We were talking about Blast Gang.
Yeah, but like just before that, I can't remember how like we segued into this. I'm not sure. Maybe I just mentioned it. Who was I going to...
We were talking about the roadmap and the EFT arena.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about the roadmap. Exactly, yeah. So the roadmap one in July has new map, new game mode with asymmetrical gameplay and quality of life improvements, which presumably is what's happening next. And purchasable PvE maybe got moved to August. So yeah, Dimitri said this was coming in like 2 weeks or something. So they showcased it, and then it's like not coming yet, but like a lot of people are. This is why I always thought the timing was weird, because people are like, oh, I kind of want to do ref, but I have to play team fight. I can't play this new mode, and I don't think like Last Hero isn't ranked anyway. Like Last Hero is not a ranked game mode. You can only play unranked. I think pretty sure. So you can't gain ARP. Like I'm stuck on the ref quest now. I mean, I say stuck. I haven't actually played any more arenas, so that's probably the reason why. But I'm stuck on the one where you have to win 5 arena matches, and you also have to get to 1700 ARP. I am 1625, so that's not necessarily that hard. If I grind enough, then hopefully I'll be able to get there. But there's apparently I was like asking people about like the theta container, and apparently there's another quest later where you have to get to like 2200 ARP, and I was like, oh, like that's a real slog. Like that's not something that is going to be fun on Teamfight. Whereas when they bring out Blast Gang, then you're going to be able to play that to get ARP instead, which should be more interesting. Like it's a more interesting game mode. There's a bomb, you have to plant it. It's just like CS, right? It's like search and destroy from COD. It's like the classic game mode. So it's good. It's better than having the cleanup crew. Like it's just, we've said it before, it's just not a good mechanic because it incentivizes both sides to just sort of camp. Like you give away information when you move in Tarkov, and so the person who like moves, so it's like a lose-lose game. It's not like nil-sum game. It's like a lose-lose game. It's like whoever moves is the one that ends up giving away information and dies. So neither people move and just take their chances. Like if you move, you 100% get killed by the other person because of your audio. If you don't move, you have a 50-50 chance of beating off the like holding off the AI until the other person like finally succumbs to their injuries or whatever. So it's just like the emergent gameplay is just not very good. So this new mode, the search and destroy mode, is going to be a lot better, which should be good.
Tried and true, proven formula that's been around for like 20 years at least, maybe something like this. Something like that. I don't know.
And it's like you can iterate, right? You can iterate on the stuff, and that's okay. But you have to basically like test it, try it, see it, and go, oh, that doesn't work, and then change it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, how long is it since Arena released? It's like 6 months, 7 months. It's been out for like 7 months now. So, and they're just changing the game mode. It's just too slow. And the ordering is weird. Like ref is here. They've done all the linking. It's like everybody go play Arena. Oh, but you have to play Teamfight, by the way, that we know is flawed, and that people don't really want to play. But you could do it now. And then it's like, oh, we've introduced this Blast Gang thing, but like everybody already knows what the ref stuff is. Like no one's excited to get Lego coins.
Can we just like
BG?
Yes, anything like I don't. Let's
the BG game mode.
Let's just retcon it and call it Search and Destroy. I don't care. Yeah. I just like anything but Blast Gang. We're
gonna call it Bomb Squad.
I just can't get the mental image of like some Fortnite looking character with like giant, orange colored text. It's like Blast Gang and all this like font. It's just like
the only problem with Bomb Squad is it abbreviates to BS. So it'd be like Tarkov's BS mode. Not necessarily ideal, but it's better. It would still be better. So yeah, that's that. I mean, there were a bunch of people testing some other stuff at TwitchCon. I know that they were showing the factory rework at TwitchCon. It's a bit confusing, the factory rework. Pestily posted his thoughts about the rework on Twitter. And he basically said, it's more of a reskin. Everything looked very clean. I assume there's more detailed textures to come to make it more gritty. You could see outside, so you can see into customs, potentially meaning weather and daylight could come into effect and not only have 2 times, which is interesting. So it could be day-night cycle in factory. We already looked at the customs implications last week. There's a much more in-depth underground system for better movement and more spawn locations. And the bridge top overpass is extended to cover the length of the previous map expansion.
Oh, cool.
He said, overall thoughts, I liked it. Believe it'd be a solid upgrade. I think I only played it for 10 minutes. But yeah, he did a quick video basically showing people around and saying what's changed. And he basically said the sky bridge goes like all the way to the end of the wall, like the far, far back wall. So you can like run through it the whole length. And then the underground section, there's a new passageway which takes you underneath the boilers next to Glass Corridor.
Yeah, okay.
So you can like get underneath those. And then there's a new set of stairs by the crates in Glass Corridor, you were saying, to get down into the underground.
Oh,
so there's the crate in the middle of the hallway. It's like one side or the other. And apparently you can spawn like underneath forklifts now. So it means that there's a bit more flexibility in terms of where people spawn. You're not necessarily like in line of sight immediately or whatever. So we'll see. It sounds cool. It sounds cool, but we'll add more verticality to factory because that one of Tarkov's real strong points.
Yes, the joys of vertical audio.
Is he
Uh,
underground or is he above? Is he in the sky bridge that goes across the whole length of the map, or is he below me?
no, stop it, Giga. Stop it.
Yeah, I
Make the
know.
nightmares go away.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what Pesty had to say. Sounds fun, but it's weird because I thought it was going to be like a total rework. It's just like a small expansion.
Mm-hmm.
They said they were like Nikita said they were keeping the old version, but maybe they will just weed it out for like events and stuff. I don't really know.
Mm,
But it's sad because I thought that the whole thing was going to be like completely different. Like there was maybe be an outside area and all this stuff.
that'd
So
be cool.
I don't know. It sounds like not much has
Mm.
changed.
I mean, from the screenshots we looked at last week, it looks very. It definitely looks like it's a modern BSG map. You know, the old factory is kind of dated a bit. You know, it still has like a Tarkov look to it, but the way they like the newish, like some of the assets looked a bit new for like the boiler stuff and the textures and especially the lighting. The lighting looked way more like detailed and dynamic, or more contrasted, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Can't that's something to look forward to, I guess.
hmm There was like a bunch of chat with Nikita and a bunch of chat with the chief product officer. So I am assuming now, because I think Nikita like alluded to this before, because he's like big dog, right? And then I
Right.
think there is two. I don't know whether actually I can't remember whether Yaroslav is product officer for both Arena
Hmm.
and the main game. I can't remember. I think he might be actually because he got introduced on that like Christmas celebration podcast where they were all just like chatting to random employees and stuff. And I thought he was like the Arena owner guy, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting confused. But anyway, he's like the product like CPO, I think it is, or something like chief product officer for Skate for Tarkov. So anyway, he did an interview. Like Nikita's, I think when I watched it, just kind of rehashed the same stuff. Like there wasn't really anything that new, really, out of those interviews. I didn't think it was that interesting. But Yaroslav talked about map to map, which was, a little bit more detail than what we had before. And I'm just gonna read what he said from the transcript because just so you get it like exactly word for word. He said, "So the next patch, we're preparing the feature where you will be able to travel between the locations. And first of all, in the start of the wipe, it's going to be like quite a hardcore event for players who know Tarkov really well, and it'll be a challenge to finish it. It will have a special achievement, but after the end of the event, it will stay in the game, and you'll be able to travel through all the maps. And I think that's how it's going to be on release also. So read into that what you will. It sounds like an event. Let's put it this way. To me, it sounds very optional.
Sounds very optional.
I think so.
Hmm.
Because unless it is like, unless it's completely on. I thought it sounded optional, but maybe it's like totally not optional. Start of the Wipe is going to be a hardcore event for players who know Tarkov really well.
See, the word event there makes me think you're right. Maybe they don't mean like literal event. Like
Yeah.
as we know it in like, there's an event, guys. Quickly go plant this at random location. But I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
they mean like
because
a physical game event that like kicks off this new
the
feature.
Wipe, maybe. It's going to make like, well, the thing is, it's weird, right? Because they say like, it's a hardcore event for players who know Tarkov really well. It will be a challenge to finish it. To put that in place
Yeah.
for everybody at the start of the wipe would be weird.
I
I mean,
agree.
I mean, I don't put it past them, but
I mean, just the wording there, a hardcore event for players who who know Tarkov really well, and it will be challenging to finish. It just sounds like it's something that's like an optional opt-in thing to me, at least,
it does. It does.
And I think there would be a lot of backlash to it being like, this is the future, this is the way, just because it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like, what are we really adding here? Like, yeah, there's like some stuff, but like Tarkov already has like a lot of like baggage to it. Like, this is kind of like
Yeah.
another thing that's like, oh man, I died. This is my 50th attempt trying to do X quest that I have to travel this, path from like shoreline all the way to lighthouse, and I got to cut through all these random map to map points on the way to turn in this quest found and raid item to this trader on this map. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that if you did like force this, there would need to be some optimization on some questing, like surely. But anyways, besides the point, it just seems like this has got to be a situational thing because it adds so much more difficulty, honestly, to the game. And the game's already pretty difficult, I would say, in many
Especially if you're
aspects.
new.
Yeah, especially if you're new.
That's
There's
the
a
thing. It's
lot
like
to
if
learn.
you're like first, second, even third wipe, if you're
Hmm.
suddenly like forced to do this thing and it's a real challenge and it's hard, like it would just be really odd to inflict that upon everybody. I was going to say before when you were talking about, struggling through, I was like, Elden Ring with extra steps. This is my 50th attempt. Like, so yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I don't know. I don't know what exactly is going to happen with it.
Oh
It'll
yeah,
be okay.
I'd be curious to see what they do with it. I think it's probably the right call to make it optional, just because I just feel like so many people would be like, just way too dissatisfied, and like they like to quote unquote complete the game.
Mhm.
Already takes like a large amount of time. It's like it's a lot of grinding, and it's not the fun kind of grinding either. At least in my
Exactly.
opinion. So I think just adding even more, it really is for like the people who want this extra challenge, and I think that's a good way of doing it. How they've chosen to
Yep.
do it, but we shall see.
Yup, exactly. We will see. I mean, I'd like to have it in there as an option. I think
Yeah,
it's cool as a
it
as a thing to do.
could be
And
fun.
especially early wipe, because most of these things appear late wipe. It's like, oh, do all these like random quests, doing them late wipe.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like, that's actually gonna add like an interesting overlay to the
Hmm.
early wipe being like, you could do this thing now, but it's like 10 days long. So do you do it like and get the
Oh,
achievement, or like do you carry on progressing as normal? Because you're gonna have to allocate some time to completing this thing.
that would be interesting if it was like a timed event, like they gave you a month or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so because it says, at the start of the wipe is going to be a hardcore event for players who know Tarkov really well. It will be a challenge to finish it. It will have a special achievement. After the end of the event, it will stay in the game. Which sounds
Huh.
to be like you got to do it within the time, or you won't get the achievement. Like, you could do it later, but
Okay.
you just won't
Okay.
get the
Okay.
achievement. I imagine.
I see. Hmm.
Don't know. I mean, it could literally be at the very beginning of when you create your character. It's like, do you want to participate in the map to map thing?
Hmm.
I mean, it'd be, I don't know. Now maybe it's got to be a
I
normal
mean,
quest, right? It's got to be a normal quest because
yeah, yeah,
we're just like that you fulfill, because then you can either do it or
yeah.
not as you wish. Yeah, it's not going to be, there's not going to be some extra tick box because that doesn't fit into the normal system. I was just like brainstorming for a second, but yeah,
But I
it's
mean,
just going to be like the guide.
I would like, which I don't remember the official statement, but I would like something with like that level of challenge and restriction. I would like it to be applicable to everyone who's also doing. If we talked about like the hardcore challenge, like originally made by like Deadly Slot with like this rule set, and it's like, yeah, that's a cool idea, but like because you're playing with a separate rule set against people who aren't playing the rule set, it's not necessarily fair. And in some ways, it kind of, because of the intersection between your rule set and your gameplay interacting with other
Mm.
people's standard rule set, it kind of like makes the rules kind of weirdish. Like, it feels kind of like it's breaking a bit. It's like you kill a Giga Chad and you get all this stuff, and it's like, well, he's not playing by the rule set, but I got all this stuff. It's like, I don't know, it just makes it kind of weird. But it's not the end of the world. But it would be nice to like share that experience. Like, it'd be interesting to play multiple people with like some weird rule set. It's almost like going on Factory and, okay, guys, we're only gonna do shotguns and snipers for this factory. It's like,
Mm.
that'd be kind of fun. Whereas like,
Yeah, can you?
I'm only gonna do shotgun and sniper on Factory. It's like, it still could be fun, but it would be interesting also to see how other people develop their strategies around the same rule sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not that I think this is going to happen, but it would be cool if it's like, yeah, there was a tick box at the beginning or something. It's like, do you
Yeah.
want to play the hardcore intro or not? And you press yes, and it's like for the duration of the event at the beginning of the wipe, you're only matched with other people who are playing like the hardcore version, and you get the achievement that way. and use no traders, like no secure container, stuff like that until the event finishes. Because then you're playing against other people playing on that rule set. It'd be like a hardcore event at the start, and then it disappears, and then everyone's back together. Because that fixes the problem of, we're going to split the player base, because it's fine, because there's 500,000 players on the wipe, or like 200,000 players on the wipe, or whatever number it is. And so then there's going to be tons of players doing both, and so it's okay. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could be interesting. Could be interesting.
It's a fun thought, though. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it for news-related stuff, Tarkov stuff. I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
if not everything.
I think that's most, like, there's random bits and pieces of things, but as I said, I think most of the stuff's been covered before. Stuff from like Nikita and like the other parts of the interview or whatever, where they say like, when's 1.0? And they say, we can't tell you. And what's coming? Oh, improvements to this, improvements to that. And it's like, we know, right? We've heard it. Oh, we're working on storyline quests. Most of the team, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it like so many times now. It's like not worth like rehashing that. It's not news, right? It's like we've already know that stuff.
I did want to ask you, because our last cast, we had a segment, a fairly long segment, discussing bans. Should the certain weapons be banned on the flea market still? Now that we're in this new, hybrid of the old mixed with the new Tarkov Fountain Raid ban situation we got going on. Just like, briefly recap I guess the idea was like, well, why don't you actually give, because you spoke with someone that gave you some insight. What was kind of like the initial idea behind it?
Behind removing
the proposition. Yeah, like why would we even think about this? You know what I mean?
It was because it didn't seem consistent and things didn't really make sense. Like, why is the spear not banned, but the MDR is banned? And why can't, like, there was something else that was kind of silly. Like, the RD and the mutant are banned. But some other guns that are, I don't know, what else is like, trying to think of what else is good in that tier. But yeah, it's just like not necessarily like super consistent. But
I mean, even like, well, I guess the M6 is the only gun of that caliber, so that you can't do that. Can't make that comparison, right? That's the only 3 blackout gun.
Oh yeah, SA58. Yeah, SA58.
Yeah, that's banned. Another weird one. Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think as we said, right, what was the last? As we said last time, the actual logic that's been put in place,
yes,
was, has the gun been meta before?
Yeah. Is it currently
since
meta?
The flea bans were a thing?
Yeah.
So after the flea ban system was put in place, has the gun been meta? If so, then it's most likely banned on the flea. If it uses 762x51 and above and has been meta at some point, then it's usually been banned. So because that explains why like the Val isn't banned, because that was meta before the flea ban system came in. But then the spear got put in later. Basically, there's a wave where the flea bans thing was what they were looking at. So the spear isn't banned because it's new. The Val isn't banned because it's too old. So it's basically the stuff in the middle that people were using a ton of. So the FAL isn't banned because the FAL wasn't meta. The FAL was meta back in the day where you could build the juice cannon, but then they balanced it into the pit of doom.
Pretty well.
No one ever used that gun again, and so the FAL is allowed. So that's the reason. It's like it's just an organic historic process. Whenever anything became like kind of a problem, they just like shoved it in a hole. But as we said, I think the final conclusion from me and the chat that I had with people was that if it is the only weapon of that particular caliber, then it doesn't need to be banned per se, because you can balance the weapon around the accessibility of the ammunition. But if it shares the caliber with other guns of different tiering and of different hierarchies, then it probably does need to be banned if it's at the top of its class, because it allows you to skip progression too easily. I.e., the MDR with M80 ammo.
Yeah.
Because you'd be able to just buy the MDR. And like, yes, it's balanced partly by price.
It is
if it's on the flea, it'd be expensive, but money is kind of whatever. So a lot of people just like skip the progression and then just buy the thing up. And it gives you stuff to work towards, like Black MDR is something people quest and like get levels towards. If you could buy that with M80 at level, what's Peacekeeper 3, like level 20 something, then you just use that for all eternity and whatever. The spear, that you have to get Speedkeeper 4 before you buy hybrid, so you can buy the gun, but you can't buy the ammo. So it's like, either the ammo or the gun has to be restricted. And if it's like a multi-weapon caliber, you're gonna, I don't know, potentially impact. You're gonna potentially impact like the gear diversity early on in the wipe.
What's
The
a
thing I would say,
multi-weapon caliber?
so like a multi-weapon caliber, like a 7.62 by 51 NATO, where there's tons of different guns that fit into that. So you've got anything all the way down from the Hunter,
right,
all the way up to the MDR,
right.
And so it's like, well, where's the progression? You know, there's got to be a reason to use the RFB, because even the SR is banned. So
yeah,
it's like, you know, you have access to the RFB, so you use that, and then you have access to the SR, so then you use that, and then you get access to the MDR and the SCAR, so you use that.
Because the RFB isn't banned, right?
No, the RFB is not banned, but it's also really cheap. You can get it early.
Yeah.
But then the FAL isn't banned. But the FAL has downsides, right? The FAL is like not as good as the MDR. It is more expensive than the MDR, and you can match one parameter on the FAL to the MDR. You can either match the recoil or you can match the ergo. You can't match both. But you do have the opportunity to add a 50-round drum on it. That's the only advantage. But then you can't match either, I don't think. Or maybe you can still, you probably still match the recoil, but the ergo is like horrendous at that point compared to the MDR. But you have a 50-round drum, so it depends what you want. So the thing is, like, the FAL and the SVD, those are guns that are like very good, but they're like huge trade-off weapons, right? The MDR doesn't really have any trade-offs. The recoil is good and the ergo is good and the bullet is good. The only trade-off is really mag size, and that got buffed when the spear got added because the spear's 25-round mags. So those top-end weapons, I do think they probably should stay locked, and it either needs to be the ammo or the gun that's locked, one or t'other. And it's easier to lock the gun when there is lots of weapons that use the same caliber. With the spear, you could just leave it because
because
it's the ammo that's the problem.
Because if you were to, like, hypothetically lock out the ammo completely, let's say you just ban the entire caliber 7.62 by 51, right? Then it's like, I'm a player, I found cool gun, I need to get ammo. I can't easily get ammo for cool gun. That sucks. Whereas, like, the inverse, how it works now is like, I'm a player, I found M61, I can put this in a variety of guns, be it the, SCAR, MDR, whatever. I mean, the caveat is you have to, like, progress to get those better ones, but there's, like, options in the middle and lower end, right? Hunter, Vepr, RFB, etc. The reason why I wanted to, like, mention this topic is I feel like, at least for me, we started with that, and then we ended somewhere completely left field, like not entirely off script, but like we went kind of in a different direction. And I don't know if I ever like felt like I got a conclusive. Yeah, it's like, so is it good? Is it bad?
I think that's
I don't know.
I think that's the thing, but my ultimate that's my rationale for keeping it the way it is. But because I don't think there's anything unbalanced about the existing system, really. I think it's kind of okay. The VSS and the VAL and those things are balanced by the fact that SP6 is banned. So it's like, I don't feel like there's any holes, really, even though it's kind of organic. Because it's been done organically because it filled up all the various holes. Like, I don't think anything is really crazy now. But if you were to just release everything on the Flea, I don't know if it would matter that much.
Yeah.
Like, in the grand scheme of things, how many people are going to, tech rush Peacekeeper 3 and do Prepper's task to get M80 and then use the MDR for all eternity? Some people. But is that going to be most people? Probably not. The MDR is probably going to be really expensive. There's only a small subset of players that want to pay 400k for a gun off the Flea. Because it would be really expensive early, which is the only time that it matters, because late wipe everyone has it anyway, because you get to Peacekeeper 4 at level 37, and then you can just buy it yourself anyway. So it only matters when people are under level 37. With this thing, we're really talking about the black MDR. I can't really think about what else we're talking about. It is just the black MDR we're talking about. Like, are there any other guns that are locked that might be a problem?
I think you would have to find the, sweet spot where, because like previously I would say it was the VSS. Remember you could just buy like VSS and VALs? Back then I think the VSS and VAL were like similar, but SP6 and like it was mostly like SP6 felt super abundant on the Flea. And so like the meta kit back then when the VSS was like at its peak was like you buy a VSS, 20 or 30 rounds doesn't matter, but you buy the good ammo because you could buy all this in the flea market and you just melted anybody that came your way. Because like even the pin was like much higher back then, if I recall correctly. It was pretty insane. So I think now that they do have this sort of like fair, pretty well detailed, fleshed out diversification of progression locks through different ammos. If you were to hypothetically, open the floodgates to all the weapons, it's like, well, what is going to be the most optimal, level 20 unlock to get a good ammo to put in a very good, caliber of, like you were saying, M80 and an MDR, maybe there's something, maybe the VSS maybe, but I don't know. That would just be the only thing you could like really, BSG could do to like make sure there isn't, as best they could, there's going to be something that like completely, YouTuber comes out with video and everyone's rocking this meta kit loadout next day, level 20 minimum requirements. But yeah, I think I kind of agree. I feel like it's in a fine place. I think in an ideal world, it would be nice to have like a, quote unquote open free market, so to speak, where, you pay, if you got the cash, the rubles, you can get it. But it feels like the balancing aspect for me, which talked about last week, was like it feels like the price difference between some of these just aren't that great, and maybe that's because the value of them isn't that great. Like that's one criticism I have of the NATO, the 5672 by 51 NATO calibers is like, as you said, the SA-50 and MDR are like fairly similar. I think MDR on like there's a little bit of a trade-off, but like they both shoot full auto big bullets. It's like, yeah, the MDR's got a lot more ergo, but there's a little bit of a trade-off there for sure in magazine. But something like an SR-25 versus M14, it's like, what's the difference? And then even then, it's like the way it's balanced in game, I'm pretty sure it's like way more skewed in favor of the SR-25 from like a economical to performance ratio. Like the M14 feels more expensive, and also I think it has like worse stats, or is like more gate kept to like make it have better stats versus like an SR-25.
Yeah, like you can mod the SR-25 fine. Like the M1A, you need the SAS thing. You need to. It's expensive to mod. It's like heavy as sin, but you can get a 50-round drum.
Sure, yeah, in a semi-auto gun.
Like,
but
it's
yes,
like the FAL. It's the FAL is to the MDR as the M1A is to the SR-25.
Yeah, whereas like going from an SR-25 to like an MDR, it's like, well, that's like a much more significant jump. Whereas like even like the SR-25 versus the RFB, it's like they both basically do the same thing. It's like, yeah, the SR-25 is better, but like they effectively are very similar, it's I don't know what you would want to do hypothetically to like resolve this, but I think it is something that's like contributes to this sort of like issue, if you will.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal, but it would be nice to have a bit more compelling, harder decisions, because sometimes it feels a bit too easy to pick the SR-25, or even the RFB.
The one big caveat. So Ash in chat was just getting me thinking about stuff.
Sure.
And they said, I think the MDR would still be balanced early wipe because it would probably sell for 400k on the Flea like the Spear was. 400k when you're level 20 is a serious hit, which I think is probably true. And that's probably why a lot of people wouldn't use it early. And then by the time people are late game and they have lots of money, you could unlock it anyway. So it probably doesn't really matter. But firstly, it's like, I don't really see any advantage in like testing that, because it kind of works anyway right now.
That's what you're saying.
But then the other thing that I would say, the big caveat to all of this, is the only way that I would be okay with releasing it on the Flea is if we get rid of the trader flipping, man. Like it can't just be flipped from high level people. Like it has to be resolved in some fashion. They need to do something about the trader flipping, because otherwise it will then be really cheap. They'll be everywhere. Everyone will be using the MDR. It'll be under the trader price or whatever, because like people are, or maybe not. Maybe it'd be slightly over. But anyway, it compresses the price a lot. We've seen that with even something like the spear. Like you can't really, like you can buy it from the trader, but you have to get Lightkeeper's the 200th task or whatever to like unlock this thing. But just the virtue of being able to recycle, and this isn't necessarily even trader flipping's fault, but like just the virtue of having find in raid be removed in the first place means that these things were a lot cheaper. So to add trader flipping onto that as well, there'd just be like billions of these things. So
it's honestly like, thinking about it, it's the worst possible outcome, because you're effectively rewarding the people who can grind the most effectively, like the most efficient. And because they're selling a gun, right? The gun itself doesn't actually do it. Like, it's like a quarter of the. If you're going to optimize your kit, it's pretty low on the tier list. Like, usually you want ammo to be high up, right? So you're able to flip something that's fairly low value, but at a presumably a much more higher price than what you paid for it. So you're making a profit, and then you as a higher level player get to take the extra cash and then buy the ammo that can't be locked or can't be sold to Flea, or the armor that can't be sold to Flea. So it's like it's double dipping in favor of the player that can grind more with the flipping, the way the restrictions works. Like,
yeah.
And like, sure, they're taking it into raid and they can be killed. And then the person that killed them can take their high tier ammo and high tier armor. But like, it still doesn't really help. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels like some trickle down economy argument. It's like, I just don't know. It just feels really bad that the person who's like can grind can basically funnel this money, and the player that's like buying for it, they're not even really getting all that much value out of it. Like, okay, yeah, your 308 gun has better rate of fire, but it's not suppressed. It's not gonna have a scope, so you gotta like buy those things too. It's just like you're spending a lot of money when it's probably more. It's in the current system. It's probably better for you just to grab the RFB and a PACA and just run and grind your task also. It's like, it's literally a race to the end, and I don't like. I'm honestly, I keep forgetting that you can flip stuff. Like, it's kind of shocking to me that they haven't done anything, or like, are people not? I guess it's late wipe, so no one's really talking about it. But I would like hope like someone like Pestilli, for example, would be like, "Yo, Nikita, this is kind of a bad idea." Unless Pestilli thinks opposite.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't be like Yo Nikita, but I don't have that. I don't have that line, unfortunately. But
yeah.
What powers I do have, I have used.
You have? Oh yeah, the YouTube videos.
No, so yeah, the powers and the lines that I do have, I have voiced my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. You've done your part.
There you go. For what it's worth.
For what it's worth, yeah.
But yeah, but without the trader flipping thing, without trader flipping, I feel that like it would probably be okay if you got rid of the flea ban. It would probably be fine. I don't think it would be a big deal ultimately for most things. Even the MDR, because yeah, it would be expensive and you'd have to buy it from the flea market like 400k, and most people just aren't going to do that. And by the time you have that disposable cash, you're probably above level 37 anyway, so it probably doesn't make that much difference. I was trying to think, like, is there any guns that it matters for? Like the grenade launcher, does that even matter these days? Like, I'm not really sure. The XMC bolt action probably doesn't matter, actually. That's fine because it kind of is garbage now. The Mjolnir, Mark 18 Mjolnir might be an issue. Like semi-auto with FMJ is like, that's big. I know that that ammo is like relatively nerfed compared to the way it used to be because of the way the ammo works now and the armor system and 5+3 and all this. Because FMJ is only 47, you kind of want to one-tap people, but you can't anymore. And the armor system is like way buffed in comparison. But with that, you've got that thing on semi-auto, like it hits like an absolute train. So I don't know whether you want to buy that on the flea. Again, it'd be super expensive, so maybe it's fine. And it's unwieldy. It's got its own downsides. There's a reason why people don't really use it that much. It's kind of like a meme gun for one-shotting people with Magnum AP if you sometimes have that. So maybe it's okay. I don't know. I'm just trying to think like the random stuff that Impact grenades. I definitely don't want them coming back.
Yeah.
Like you can keep for the rest of it. It's probably fine with the ammo like restrictions the way they are. Like Zvezda flashbang round. That's banned completely. That's fine. The hybrid is like locked and banned. Like with the ammo stuff, it's probably alright, I think. But there's a couple of exceptions maybe that I wouldn't want to see, but few and far between. I think the Black MDR the game would be okay. It would be fine. I don't think it'd be like really that detrimental by opening it up, but like it works. So why, right? This is the thing. What are we gaining from opening it up? Oh, the ability to buy an MDR for 400k when you're level 18. Okay, all right, like maybe, but like it's fringe, right? It's small, and you risk destabilizing the whole like incentive structure of the game by doing it. It's like I don't think we gain enough to warrant testing this. Is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel similar. I feel like, I mean, it would be nice for consistency's sake, but is that really that big of a concern? Not necessarily. And
yeah,
I think in large part, it's really only going to the people who are most likely to buy the very expensive guns, or like people that are like confident enough to min max the items that are going to give them the smallest amount of advantage, right? Like, if you're a low level player, or sorry, not even a low level player, like a new player, it's like you watch a video, it's like, where should you spend your resources? Well, it's like, here's your in the hideout, someone suggests, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to use dirt kits, and that's right. Whereas like if you're an experienced player, you got the skills to back it up, the knowledge and experience. It's like, well, I'm just gonna, sure, this gun is only going to increase my power level by 5% at the cost of 4x of what I could buy, but I'm good enough. I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, fine. I just feel like it doesn't. That's probably mostly what we're really getting here, and I don't know if it's actually that great of a thing to do.
Yeah, it only really helps experienced players. So like we don't need more of that. We can leave it.
Yeah, I kind
They
of
don't
feel
need
like
more of a
that.
leg up. Like they've already got an advantage.
Yeah.
Like what new players paying 400k for an MDR? Like nobody, right? If you're doing that, you're already good at the game.
I mean, on the flip side, just another devil's advocate. If you did manage to kill the good player, then you would be able to sell the MDR on a flea, which is nice because then you're. But I don't know. That would be nice.
But then again, it's like it's then the thing of like, well, when you find one in a box, you find one on a player, you're just like, oh, this is really good. Not like, oh, how much is this worth divided by 8? Compare it to all the other items I've got in my thing. It's more like, it's an MDR, amazing, right? And it's a little bit like the quest that I'm doing now. I can't get the Zabralla. The Zabralla's really hard to get. So I like kill the guy and I'm just like, yo, the Zabralla, I need to get out, right? And it's like, again, it's the wanting to use the stuff you find kind of thing, which I think that this sort of incentivizes, which I think that they should do more of. So that's why maybe I think it's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Half of me still wants them to ban the Voodoo, ban the Razor, ban the Schmidt and Bender 128, ban all of these things, make them fighting raid only, make them spawn more in Kibba, make them spawn more in the road camp, like get rid of them off the flea. Or maybe keep them on the flea, but like get them off the traders, like stuff. Like that's the first step. But the second step is like, do you ban them on the flea and then make them find raid? You have to go find them, like make them scarce, so you're not using on every raid. Like, because if you can buy one off the flea, then it's a money problem. We saw that before with things like the Altin. It's like, well, it's not enough to get it off the traders, but it's baby steps, right? It's baby steps. If you got rid of all the bastards off the traders, see how expensive they get on the flea, see if people are still using them every raid. And then if they're not, then it's like, if they are, then it's like, well, we have to do these finding raid now. At least one or two of them, just see where it goes. I don't know. It's weird, right? Because it's moving the game more hardcore. It means that players who are newer probably never get to use the stuff. Although if it's in raid, then maybe they have a chance. I don't know. It's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard to balance that. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot where it's at. I think there could be some minor tweaks, like maybe the SA58 could, in theory, use. It's pretty good, but it's also weird because it is locked behind Peacekeeper quests, the one where you gotta like kill scavs at the chalets or something, and then you could buy it from him, but it's like very expensive. Or you could buy out the flea, but you're only going to be up like most of that supply is from scavs, like scav guns, which aren't great. It's like less than ideal, and it's like a very expensive item because I think the trader price is high, so it typically sells for a higher amount. So the point being is like, the SA58's actually kind of fine where it's at, I guess. Like a banning would probably not really do anything. Like there's really nothing with it. It just so happens it's like in a good spot in the
And no
market.
one
But
really uses it now, right? That's the thing. So
yeah.
you're just gonna make people use it less. Like the lower for this thing is at mechanic 4.
Yeah,
So
a
if you
lot of the
wanna
parts are on mechanic
if you wanna
4.
fix the
So
durability, yeah. What was the it's the SA heavy? What is it called? Heavy duty? No, what's it called? Extreme duty.
yeah.
Extreme duty. That thing is. I think it went down 1. It did, yes. It's mechanic 3 now, but like you need level 30 before you can buy the cover.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless you go on the Flea and you get the Raider one, the short barrel one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's just like kind of annoying to mod. It's hard to get. It's a pain.
Yeah.
It's just like no one uses it, so there's no need to ban it.
Yeah, it's kind of another thing we didn't really talk about, but just as a brief aside, it's like the other factor is the usability of the gun, in like this hierarchy. It's like you got the ammo, you got the caliber, you got the gun itself, and then you get the mods. Like the SC58, without constraints, it was pretty decent, but then when you think about, oh, the mods actually, like, I want to put a sign on it. I need to get this rail. How do I get this rail? Oh, it's, level 3 locked. It makes it kind of like knocks it down a few tiers. Whereas like the MDR, you just buy that thing and it's good to go. It's got everything on it you need outside of like rails. But yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess just like the other thing, I thought I'd read out try to farm some good karma for myself for myself, because I I try to read the comments fairly, maybe like twice or 3 times a week on the YouTube side, especially.
You're better at me than that because I forget to, because it's on like a different account. So I have to like
Yeah,
either go to the videos manually or like sign
yeah,
into it, because I don't see the comments in my YouTube studio unless I like go to the other account.
yeah.
So I forget. So
Let's see, I'm bad about it because I'll respond to like comments, but I don't switch accounts. I just like do it on my own. But because some people, they might, I could see like how they might be like, oh, who is this? But anyways, um, I'm not gonna lie. The other day, I like just, I feel like I'm developing what is, because there was a point where I just like stopped looking at comments because I just felt like some of the negative ones like stood out a lot more than the neutral or positive ones, and that's kind of like the facet of social media. Just feels like all the negativity is just like always up front. You never see how a story about you know St. Jude's Hospital, raised this much money or whatever. It's like you never see that in the front. It's like once in the blue moon, sure, but it's always like negative stuff. Like we even a buddy were talking yesterday, and he was telling me about this article he read that it was like titled Helldivers lost 90% of its
I
player
saw this.
base. Yeah, and like he was like kind of going around how like this is like really crappy, like why even report this, and like yeah, I agree, and it like sucks that this is what catches headlines, because I mean there's so much there, but in addition to like probably a large part of the play of that 90% probably were interested in that article and like looked at it, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like people outside of Helldivers may have not cared as much as people who were at one point a part of that 90%, you know what I mean? So it's like this weird relationship there, and I mean there's so much. I mean, like the talk about live service games, because Helldivers is kind of, I mean it is a live service game,
Yeah.
but for me it feels more like a hybrid we were discussing yesterday, because it's like you pay up front it's almost a full price game. It's like $40, and then there's like effectively monthly DLC that's purchasable if you want to for $10, but you can just grind out in the game, and if you really like the game, whatever, if you want to help speed that process up, you can, but it's not really like, it's fine, right? And that's cool, but it's just like yeah, the game did lose 90%, which I think was like kind of inevitable, because there was just a lot of people hopping on it, and like especially when I hopped onto it for a month, a good month there. I mean, we were like, me and my buddy we were there every night, be like, Helldivers, come on, get on Helldivers. We were having a blast. But since then, you know, I've returned to it periodically, and like just actually yesterday we were playing, and there was like a minor update. I was like, oh, you know, it's a good excuse to like check the game out, and you know, it's still fun, but it's just it's it's okay. It doesn't have to be a game that's like Tarkov, for example. You know, where it's like if you're gonna play Tarkov, you can't just play Tarkov. You have to like sacrifice. You have to make sacrifices. You know, you have to offer up a part of your soul. You know what I mean? And it's like, don't get me wrong, I like those. Like, there's a part of me that likes those games. Like Dota 2 was like that. You know, Dota 2 especially because it was, oh my god, it was like you play the game and you're like, if you're like me, you never played RTS before, so everything's like completely new and foreign to you, and you're just like, how do I, you know, how do I improve? There's so much to learn. I just want to go spam right click on the hero. Why do I have to creeps? You know, there's so much to learn there, and it's like really daunting, right? And that you eventually get to the point where it's like you surpass. There's like this threshold where you surpass like an introductory player to a new player, and like that threshold is like whether or not you. I bet there's like some data out there. It's like, you know, if a player was to surpass this threshold, then they're locked in for X amount of years to the game. You know, I'm sure there's something. So I don't know. It's just it's kind of one of those things to tie it back. It's just like these live. We've been like conditioned to play, to have these expectations that like every game has to be a game that I commit. That's like my identity. I now am the game. You know, this is my soul. And if it's not, the game's dead. You know, it's like it's not because I'm not having fun with the game anymore. No, the game's dead. The devs need to like monetize the heck out of me. You know, make just drip feed me content. Like, you know, it's like, it's a problem. But yeah, it's just interesting how the negativity is just always up. Feels like it's like it's unfortunate that the loudest voices are like the negative ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that was annoying. I thought the article was kind of annoying as well, just because I was like, this was inevitably going to happen, right?
Yeah, yeah,
and
for
like,
sure.
if you look at it, it still peaks even now. Like, what's the 90% drop off? What does that actually mean? Like, what does that mean in terms of the player base? It went from 450,000 people playing it because it was like an unprecedented viral hit to 45,000 people playing peak a day. The game's still very successful. 45,000 players playing is really good. Like, if you look, while you were talking, I was going to look at Steam charts. Like, in its like low cycle, like when was Helldivers actually released?
Had it been about 5 months ago? Yeah,
8th of February, right? So this game has been released 5 months ago. Has had some additions at the beginning, but it's slowed down a lot while they like focus on bugs or whatever. We're probably on the precipice of some, you know, there's a whole new faction that's coming and whatever that's going to make the game more interesting. You know, they're like in kind of in bug fix mode. So there's not been anything huge been released for a while. So it's in its low season. Right, it's definitely in its like low ebb in terms of like games, you know, come out and people go back to them and play them again with the new content and da da da. Like the game is still the 52nd most played game on the planet. Like, given where it is in its cycle, like I don't think that anybody can say it's a failure, right? And this is the thing: the headline is designed to make you think this game is dead. That is what the headline is telling you.
Yeah.
With its like 90%, because a 90% fall sounds like a lot for anything. Like, oh my goodness, 10% of it's like 10% of its original? No way, the game's dead.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take into account any of the context around like why it started so high, like why it was, you know, so many players in the first place. Like no game is going to keep 450,000 players. Like it's just not sensible. I think Helldivers probably has fallen off a lot less than other games of its type with hype.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah.
Or whatever,
absolutely.
Right? Like you have 100 and something hours in the game. I have 100 and something hours in the game. Like, am I playing and contributing towards those numbers? No. But like, will I play Helldivers again in the near future? Probably. You know, it's one of those games like when all the homies are on and everyone just happens to be free, we'll probably dip in and play. We're not like, you know, religiously logging in and playing.
Yeah.
But like when we get together, we'll probably play it because it's a solid game and we love it. You have a great time with it. It's awesome for just chilling with guys. And so if you're only playing once every 2 weeks or something, and that applies to lots of other people, well, then you're only playing once every 14 days, once every 10 days or whatever, that's 90% drop off because you're only playing 1 day rather than playing 10 days. That's the reason. That's the player. That's the behavior of players. But it doesn't mean that people are not interested, right? So if they drop a new faction or something, they could well have the numbers go back up
Oh
again.
yeah, sure.
If they add like meaningful big content, not just like another war bond, because it's not really enough. Anyway, I know that you started this off talking about the negativity of social media comments and why you don't always necessarily read YouTube comments. So should we skip right back to what you were going to do at the beginning, which was read some of our comments?
Yeah, well,
hopefully they're not all negative.
What I was going to say is, I did put someone on blast.
Oh no!
Like, yeah, and you know, I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna do that. But my point is that in order to sort of like give myself some good karma, I thought it would be appropriate to call out the, you know, be the change you want to see, you know. So I'm going to instead read positive comments that we've gotten, that I picked out a few. But yeah, before I do that, I just want to say, yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a bit of a toxic trait that's developing, because now it's like, like it feels good, Giga, to absolutely just blast back, but I don't think that's like a good thing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, what do I do with this now? Because like previously I was like, now I just don't want to look at comments. But like I genuinely like seeing what people have to say. Like there's some where it's like I don't even want to like, you know, say anything, because there's so much, you know, they're giving their opinion and other people are like getting in there. I mean, like some of these, like the it turns into like a Reddit thread. It's like there's 10 different posts underneath someone's take, which I think is cool, you know. So anyways, yeah, jump into the comments after that. I have to like deal with that later. Probably talk to my therapist about that one. But anyways, so, in the meantime, is that the? I think I copied the wrong comics. This doesn't make any sense. Sorry, it's so funny. I copied this one. It's just like it's something about getting anyways, someone said if you play this podcast and the podcast POG at the same time, it sounds like an EFT classroom of different types of students discussing the class, which I think is funny because it is very like, oh my god, what kind of like messed up psychological trauma do you have to have in order to bust out a whole dialect and theoretical philosophy about a small segment of a video game? You know what I mean? It's just like...
Yeah, it's true. And you should really get checked out if you enjoy playing the podcast over the top of ours simultaneously. That's definitely a toxic. My toxic traits: to play both podcasts at once. Maybe that's gonna be the new meta. You know, you play both at 2 times speed with subtitles.
Oh my god!
Like one eye on one eye on the other, like in a fighter pilot kind of thing. Just like
split
speed run 2-hour podcasts in 1 hour.
Split the audio, podcast in one ear, podcast in the other ear.
Hey, there you go.
Get the 2 headset Giga trick. You know, you're talking about.
Yeah, the one on each ear.
Absorb as much information as possible. Someone said, "Church, you clickbait slut. Your titles are ridiculous. Great content, pals." And all I'll say is,
what was that in relation to? Which one?
Oh, good question. 13 days ago, so I had to pull up the. I can pull it up real quick and find out.
I can probably find it quickly just doing a search here. It was on Community Divided, that one. The Tarkov armor was reworked and not everyone is happy about it. That was the one.
Yes.
That was in fact my title, I think.
Yes. And as I relay the information, said usually GigaBeef does those things, but you are correct
Not
about
always.
one of those statements you made.
Yeah, not always though. Not always. Some of yours I quite like.
Yeah. That's so funny. I think that's kind of all I had, because the other one, I don't know what I meant to copy, because I copied something completely different that doesn't make any sense.
Oh well, you could do it next week.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, there was, oh, you know what? That's actually, never mind. That is the right comment. I'm sorry. That was one that I wanted to call out that has like 10 different comments underneath
replies
it.
or something.
Yeah. But yeah, let me just read it out here. Let me find it in the thing so I can see what other people are saying. Wish there's a better way to do this.
So what I was doing, I was switching account
Okay, I found
in the
it.
dashboard, then going into comments, and then you can just like search for one of the words.
Yeah,
If you
that's a
search
good
for like
idea.
shootout, then it appears. I don't know if can you just like view comment, and then you can view comment on YouTube on the side, but then it loads the video and automatically starts playing it, which is very annoying. There we go. Yes. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, there's a lot of people talking.
Yeah, so someone commented, is that in reference to the video where we talked about the armor system feedback from the community after we had like a week to play with it. This person asks, is that skill though if we get in a shootout and I shoot you 10 times, but my ammo doesn't penetrate your armor or helmet, but you shot me in the arm twice and kill me with your high level ammo, which I think is something we like kind of touched on, or at least around that stuff. But I think it's like, I always like seeing, this is an example where it's like, I don't feel like the need to like really give an opinion or anything. It's just, I'm just happy people are like thinking and, asking these types of questions and people are getting involved. And then like, if you read that comments, like I won't read all the comments because there's a lot, but it's like very respectful and like, yeah, I see your point of view, and yeah, I see what your point of view is. It's not like, oh my god, you want to kill the game? What are you, insane? So I just wanted to shout out the people there that do get involved, and there's a few people that I recognize that I see every so often, which is cool. And shout out to the people who just listen, on the regular, maybe just don't feel the need to comment. I remember one time I was watching the POGcast some time ago, and they were talking about something divisive or something, and I start going in there, typing my master thesis on it, and I got maybe like 5 sentences down. I was like, what am I really doing here? It's like, it's fine. I don't have to like give my opinion here. It's whatever. So
To be honest, I'm that person for everybody else's channels. Like I very rarely comment anything. I don't normally put my voice forwards into the community because it's just like I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not that guy really. Not that guy. I don't really want to be arguing with people on the internet or whatever. I'm just not that fast. It's probably because I'm too busy.
yeah,
I got too much to do, so it
yeah.
makes it very difficult to want to go and just talk in a very small way. I don't mind answering comments on my own stuff. People like actually asking questions or give opinions, things, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I definitely. There are times where just to find myself in a rabbit hole, and it's like, how did I get here, and why do I care so much?
Yep.
Otherwise, man, the week's been kind of like playing various games a bit. Been playing a little bit of Elden Ring. We tried the co-op mod because it finally got updated. But it wasn't a great experience. It was just very chaotic, buggy. It's actually kind of amazing. It was like originally we were kind of like complaining about, or at least I was complaining about the vanilla co-op system that's very like sparse and limited, and then we get like this full-on fledged system, and it's like, oh, I see why they didn't do it like this. Just like a lot of like weird stuff and challenges you have to like work around to make it seamless, like truly seamless. But anyways, that's it's okay. Elden Ring is like, I feel like I'm not super locked in. Like we haven't got to the DLC, and it's one of those games where I historically have always played it with like, how can I want to like be thoroughly challenged, so I'm gonna like restrict myself by like not using magic. Not that magic is like it's kind of like seen as like not necessarily, it's like sometimes OP. It depends on the game, but anyways, it's like I won't use summons, for example. Like sometimes you can summon NPCs to help you in the boss fight, or you could even interact with the multiplayer element and summon a friendly cooperative, whether it's your friend or some random to help you with the boss fights. Like, no, I want to forego all that. I want like the full challenge, things like this. So, um, I don't know. It's hard for me to get back in that like space with it because it's just a big game. It's like so much there to do and play and try to play with friends a bit. And it's like, it's okay. I don't know. I feel like I'm stuck in my ways. So we might give it a go again and really try to make it to the DLC because man, there's like I've seen so much like controversy, if you will, about the DLC and people being like, first it was too hard. Now people were talking about accessibility. Like I think the one that really came up was with Alana Pierce. I don't know if you know her name. She used to work for
like a random like Elden Ring stuff appears all the time, and I've seen her piece.
Yeah, and people really, oh man, the people come out the woodworks, and it's like I guess she was talking about accessibility in games because she used to work for IGN, I think, or Rooster Teeth, or maybe that's a branch of IGN, whatever. And then now she's like, in the actual game industry. I forget what she does, but I think she works for Sony. So like, she's got a lot more insight, and just like a lot of her career it has been in the industry. So she kind of talked about like what considerations and these like what people do to make considerations for accessibility, like a kind of like a flow chart. And like, yeah, she brought up pausing because the game actually has no pausing. Like if you need there is no actual pause button, no matter what you're doing, whether it's changing settings or whatever. If you go in your inventory, and change a weapon, it just doesn't pause. So it's like kind of like I think that's intentional, but like if like why not also just have like an actual pause button, and like maybe
like
there's
in the
some
settings menu it doesn't pause either.
Nope.
Okay.
Which is like, kind of crap. Like if you know what I mean? It's just like it just it's and From Software just like weird like that. Like I said,
How does saving work?
It's auto saved, but it's based off of like events /
like how frequent is it?
There's a guaranteed autosave whenever you rest at a bonfire, which is like a checkpoint.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you'll see like a little Elden Ring icon pop up when it's autosaving. Otherwise, I don't really know how frequent it is, but it's I don't know. Anyways, the point being is just like even it's like why? And then why are people like so like people just blew it way up like, oh my god, you would have like destroyed the integrity of the game. It's like, oh, that's so cringe. Or like you could pause while a boss is striking and then use that information. It's like, man, this is one thing that I've thought about with like accessibility when it comes to like, why not make it optional? Because even like cheating, for example, like if you want like God mode, for example, in your single player game, what's wrong with it if you're just going to have it as an option? Because like, if someone wants to do that, it's like their choice. You know what I mean? It's almost like might as well incorporate it because it's like you can kind of like customize your own experience. Like I don't know, I feel like you're not really losing much in my mind. Like I don't know, playing can't remember when I had this thought, but I was like maybe I was watching speedrun videos or something. But it's like, yeah, just like why not just have it in the game? Like,
yeah, I don't know enough about it to really have an opinion because people in chat are saying things like it's an online game, you can't save in Tarkov. Now, I was under the impression Elden Ring is exclusively single player. I've never played a Souls-like, and I had no idea there was even I do know that you could raid each other's raids, but like that's like a real fringe piece, no, as far as I'm concerned. Like coming from somebody with no knowledge of the franchise, like as far as I'm aware, it's like 99% like single player.
Yeah, so this is the thing is like they effectively give you an option to play offline or online, right? But and like arguably playing offline is easier because you can't get invaded. What's called like it's like someone invaded your single player game and they're here to like kill you or whatever.
But they give you the choice.
effectively, yes. Like I don't know for consoles, but like for PC, you can boot it up and offline. I guess through Steam. There's not
Wait, so
like
is it an
I
explicit
don't.
choice in game,
I
or
don't think it's an explicit choice in game. I'm not positive about that. But I guess that's kind of like my thing is like why, you know,
so you can choose whether to be online or offline,
mhm.
but you're not
But
allowed to pause
you
because
can't pause the game. Yeah.
that would destroy the. I mean, to me, it seems
Furthermore,
weird, right? It's like,
yeah,
oh, but online is like an integral part of the gameplay, which means that you can't pause. Oh, but you can choose to just be on offline. By the way, it's like that. I don't think that's like
yes,
it's just, that seems weird to me. Just from
yeah.
from face value, I don't really
I
understand
think it's
that take. It's like if you can play offline, you should be able to pause as well, or you
exactly
know, it's just like it's
at
just
the
so
bare
crazy. Like I would be
minimum.
annoyed playing it. You know, that actually probably puts me off playing
Mhm.
because the times that I play in the evening is typically times when I'm like kind of on call for kiddos. It's actually a lot easier now than it was. I
Mhm.
think this is actually part of the crux of the whole thing, from what I remember from the tweet. Like I didn't actually
Mhm.
did I watch? I can't remember. I even watched the tweet, or whether I just like read a summary recap of it or something like that. But it was. I actually think it might have been about kids or something.
Yeah.
I don't really remember, but like if you can't if you can't pause Elden Ring, and like how long are some of the boss fights? This is the things that would determine how annoying it'd be. Like how long can a boss fight be? Is it like
Mm,
30 minutes? Could you be fighting a boss for 30 minutes?
30 minutes? Nah. It's probably
20
like
minutes?
5. I don't.
Five. Okay, well, 5 minutes is sort of fine. Like if you suddenly need to go and then you just go, I just have to leave. Like,
Yeah.
okay, 5 minutes is kind of like whatever. If it was like 30 minutes, then I would never be playing this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Without a pause feature, I would never be playing this game. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing that because
Yeah.
if I was like 29 minutes through and then I suddenly have to, I literally like sometimes you just have to go, right? And
Mhm.
I wouldn't be doing that. But like if 5 minutes is like, okay, that's
But
enough to
like
start again.
in the context, the added context here, that's one fight, but let's assume this is a hard fight for you in particular. This may be like your 50th attempt. You know what I mean? So like, and you have like, let's say the stars are aligning. Like you had a really good attempt this time. You got the boss down to like 1/10 of your HP. You still got a bunch of resources still, and then suddenly, you gotta take a business call. It's like, oh man, I can't pause the game. It's like, why not just have it in there? And this is FromSoft is just like this. Like they just sort of like do things a bit like BSG actually. Now I think about it, but there's just like, yeah, we're gonna do things like this, and it's just they don't really care or put a lot of value in this type of stuff. Like I hate it so much because like having more accessibility for like mouse and keyboard would like make the game so much better because like I just want to like I wish I could change the jump and sprint key are like the same key, so it's like my gamer. Yeah, it's because in reality the game is made for consoles. Like it's
Right.
effectively made for consoles, so it's like we're gonna deport to PC, but we're just gonna like because the sprint button's A, I think on console. It's also jump. It's like, oh, we'll just keep it the same, and now it's
That's
spacebar.
actually gross.
Yeah, it's something you have to get
You
used
know
to.
what? I didn't really think about this before. Do you have a controller?
I do. Well, no, I do
Do you
actually.
play? Do you
I
play
don't.
it? Did you just play it on mouse and keyboard?
Most of the Souls games I have, I've just like dealt with it. But I want to say my first time with Elden Ring, I did play a controller because I had a Steam controller that was working, which is no longer working. I have like
Oh,
a crappy PlayStation 1, and I don't
huh.
really like it. It's like tiny and small, and it's kind of a pain
Hmm.
to set up. But
You know what?
anyways,
I don't like. Having never played the series, having not really been invested in the
mm-hmm,
series, I don't really care so much about the pause thing because we've just kind of gone through that like
mm-hmm,
chain of stuff. Like, yeah, it's annoying if you are like 50th attempt and you're about to win and then you have to go whatever. Right?
sure,
That's annoying, but it's not game breaking. I don't play on controllers anymore.
mm-hmm,
I just don't. I don't have one, and I'm not intending to buy one for this game. So I was actually going to play. I actually really was thinking about it. Like it was in the top 3 things of like big blockbuster games that I might play next, like Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, and something else. I can't remember what the other thing was, but if it's if there's no accessibility for mouse and keyboard, I'm actually probably not going to play it.
yeah.
If I'm
I
honest,
mean, fair. Honestly, fair.
which I didn't think about until like now. I've kind of made the decision now that I'm probably not going to play
Yeah.
this game because I don't want to deal with like jump and like no. It's just why I just don't want to do that, and I'm not invested in the series, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. I don't want to like overcome a bunch of barriers to play something in a way that's like just feels annoying. Because I'm not going to be that much better on controller, because like I never used controller, so it's terrible. I tried to play back like a million years ago when I bought a PlayStation 3. And I bought it basically because it could play Blu-rays, and it was also just like really cheap, because I think the PS4 was coming out at the same time. Not that I ever really used it for that, but I thought, oh, it seems good at the time. And I played Last of Us on PS3, and I just couldn't get anywhere in it. Basically, it was just terrible, and I just gave up. I never finished Last of Us. It was just like the game itself. Playing the game on console ruined the game for me, which is crazy. It's like actually crazy. But like I got like, I don't even know, like maybe 10%, 15% through the game, and then I was just like, this sucks. I just hate this.
Why?
This is
Just
terrible.
like the controllers?
I just hate the controller. I just hate using the controller now. I just don't want to play it that way. It's just awful. Like I feel like I feel like I'm, a child, and like I know what I want to do, and I just can't get it to do what I want to do. And it's not even like in a mouse and keyboard way of being like, oh, I know kind of in Tarkov, I've like can improve here and there. There's loads of things I can improve in PvP, but like that's a little bit like as an adult, like improving your sporting performance or whatever. I can still walk around, pick up a cup and drink out of it without dropping it on the floor, whatever. I feel like a child, like a 2-year-old playing on console, and like it's just annoying getting used to that. That said, I did play Far Cry 3 with a controller, and that was actually okay. I think it depends on the type of game. I think it's because stuff was like so close in Last of Us. Like you have to be turning a lot. Like things are like jumping like onto you, and it's like the trying to control those like gross movements. I found like next to impossible. And trying to I don't know, like Far Cry was a bit more like tactical, and like you could be long range if you wanted to be, and like I did a lot of sniping in that game with the console, so I had like time to like line stuff up or whatever. No, it's interesting. It's quite interesting. Yeah, interesting. Well, that's it. Elden Ring dead. Dead to me.
Yeah,
Gone.
I mean, fair. It's like I really wish they would do like it feels like such a low hanging fruit to do some of the bare minimum accessibility stuff. Like I don't know, it's just kind of And what's
You know what
more? Go ahead.
No, go. You go. I was going to change topic completely.
I was just gonna say what's more funny is like I don't think this is true for Elden Ring. I'm pretty sure, but it's like very common that consoles have aim assist, which is like an inherent accessibility, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like if it's not affecting me, why do I care? You know what I mean? It's like I couldn't care if Billy playing Halo 3, campaign has aim assist on or not. You know what I mean? It's like it has zero effect to me. It's like I couldn't care less. Just put it in there. You know what I mean? Same thing with like Elden Ring. It's like if there's a pause in like offline mode, it's like it has zero impact. I could care less.
Yeah,
just do. It's like a no brainer. It's like it's only net positive. There is no downside. Why? And then the ultimate truth is like because the game has such a hard reputation. There's such a hard on for this idea like, I beat the game. I'm the most supreme gamer of all. How dare you try to change the game and make it easier? That's cringe. This was the elitist game. It's like something to do with these like hardcore games tend to attract these type of gamers, and I be lying if I said I at one point wasn't one of these gamers, but it just looking back, it's like, oh man, it's kind of a problem. Like
I think it's from the standpoint, like even the studio says, if it's because it comes, the place that it comes from, in my opinion, is it comes from the place of like what FromSoft themselves said, which is if you decrease the difficulty of Elden Ring, it just like breaks the game. Like the game doesn't like function properly in the way that it was envisaged. And I think it comes from that place, but it gets to a level where it's like any change that could potentially even make it like logistically easier to play in terms of your actual life. Even that is like, like we don't want any change. Like, no, it's like the sanctity of the difficulty. It's like, don't touch anything. Like, it's not, you might break the game's like feel or something. You know, I sort of see people are protective about stuff they like, about the feeling of things that they like. And if there's something that's then like officially sanctioned, then like maybe it becomes a thing, you know, to pause in certain places or do this or that or the other. You know, I don't know. Like I think that's where it comes from, though. Personally, just trying to empathize with the other side. People are just protective over the experience, and it's a bit like Tarkov in some ways, where it's like, oh well, if you really want hardcore so much, you can go play hardcore. It's like, yeah, but that's not the actual rule set. Like the actual rule set of Elden Ring doesn't have pause in it. Whereas like if it did, it's a tool for you then to utilize, right? And as a gamer, it's like kind of your this is going to sound really like hyperbole, but like it's your duty to use the full tool set, right? Like if you're like a meta gamer, it's like your duty to use all the tools at your disposal. You might not like them, and you might like in Tarkov, right? We like rally against things that we dislike. Like I rally against the instant factory speed run, you know, free cache thing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to use it? Of course I am. Do I think it's good for the game? Hell no. I don't think it's good, right? But it exists, so I'm going to do it. And I think that's kind of the place it comes from. It's this internal battle for many people of, if it's there, then I'm going to want to utilize it. So I'd rather it just not be there because it might then be detrimental to the experience. I think that's it. I think
I,
that's it.
I wasn't aware of the context of what the FromSoft devs said, which I think assuming that they want, hypothetically, let's say they made an easy mode, but they just don't want to lower the difficulty. You know, player does an extra 50% damage and takes 50% less damage. Let's say they did that, right? It's like, well, the game wasn't built with that in mind. And that makes sense if they wanted to have a easier difficulty, but still try to like get the experience they were intended for. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. It's like I could see how you can make the game easier and still get a similar experience. You know, it's like it's a bit like The Last of Us, I think. Like there's probably some difficulty settings there, but really the game's experience is more cinematic than like the storytelling. It's not necessarily the mechanical gameplay, right? Whereas like Dark Souls, it's like a bit more mechanical and challenge, but also story, but more so the challenge aspect. So I could see that. And just jumping back to my earlier point, it's like I think I like the idea where it's like almost rather than put in the 50% damage buff easy mode versus not, and just leave it like that. And it's like, because then it's like, oh, we're gonna make it accessible, but we're not gonna like invest a lot of time into it. And if you as a player use the easy mode and then suddenly complain, oh, this game's too easy, it's like, play the regular mode. You know what I mean? It's like, and if someone wants to play easy mode, that's like their choice. You know, it's like you give them the choice. Like, do you want to play the intended experience, or do you want to taint the experience and play it how you see fit? Like, for me, I like that modular aspect. It doesn't have to be like super, you boot up the game and it's like 1,000 different tick boxes for what type of experience you want. But just having the option there for me, I feel like is I don't know, I feel like it adds value. Like, I played Celeste not too long ago, which is like a 2D platform, and it had like a crazy amount of like accessibility. Like, you could have I think like you had one jump and then you had to land to reset, and then you could get an ability that would allow you to double jump and you had to land and reset. But then there was a accessibility option where you could just have unlimited jumps, right? And it's like, oh, I could use that, and like it's gonna completely break the game, but like that's up for me to decide. You know what I mean? So it allows me to be like, oh, I get to kind of like choose what I want to experience, and can still play the game and like share experiences with people. It's like, yeah, I remember that epic cutscene where Prapper invites you into his room and seduces you.
Oh my god.
Sorry, well, wrong plot. Wrong. Whoops. I mean,
yeah. Talking of games that do have a pause function, though, that probably is the last little segment. Have you ever played Frostpunk?
No. But that's in the sphere of what's the other Factorio? Is it like similar?
No, I would say no.
Okay. I assume they're in the same sphere. Okay.
Like, maybe tangentially there's like some sort of overlap, but like they're like very, very different games. Like, so Frostpunk is the reason why I bought it was because it's something that's like been interesting in the background for a while, but like I probably would never have played it if it was just like regular price. And Nikita, somebody was talking to Nikita when he was posting a bunch on Twitter, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and saying like, "Oh, what games do you play outside of Tarkov and blah blah?" And he said, "Oh, like Frostpunk is one of my favorite games," which kind of like put it in the back of my head. Like it's one of those games that I thought looked kind of cool, but I'd never played or like I hadn't really spoken to anybody about it. Like none of my friends had like raved about it, but I just like thought about it for a bit. And then I was looking through the Steam summer sale games, and it's 90% off. So I was like,
Wow.
okay, this is literally £2.50. And I think the Steam summer sale is still on, is it not? I believe it might be. So if anybody was interested in looking at it, then yeah, it's on until the 11th. So it's on until like next Thursday. So I don't know whether it differs by region, but at least for me, there's a whole section which is like the deep discounts one, which is like 90% off. There's like Borderlands 2, there's Battlefield 2042, like Armor 3, Battlefield 5, like there's loads of stuff. And then literally 90% off, like Civilization 6. These games are like £2-3 each. Like a £50 game, which is a very expensive game in UK money, would be a fiver in the Steam sale. So like if there's any of these games that you're even like, the Celeste's in here for £1.67. So if there's any of these like games that you're even remotely interested in, then it's certainly worth like having a look through. And anyway, Frostpunk appeared in here for £2.50 because it's normally £25. And I was like, well, given that Nikita had talked about it and I'd seen it in the, just generally around and people had said it was like broadly good, like that osmosis of games of just being like, oh, it's seen as like a good game in general. So I bought it and I played it and I just finished the main campaign. I actually like did spend quite a lot of time on it actually, like in a very short space of time. Like when did I actually buy it? I mean, I bought it at the beginning of the sale, so maybe a week ago. I mean, for me, I played quite a lot of time, spent quite a lot of time on it because I didn't play it every single evening. But it was like 15 hours to complete the main campaign. Yeah, this one, my body's a machine that turns Steam purchases into unplayed games. I'm quite like I'm quite like good at this usually.
Oh, I forgot to share my screen. That's funny. Yeah, that's what I was looking up.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of the screen, just Church looking up all sorts of random stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I played it, and it's like I would say it's more like because Factorio is sort of survival, like kind of, but in a sort of in the same way that like Minecraft is survival. It's probably like Factorio is like probably less survival than Minecraft. The way that like Factorio functions, it's all about like Factorio is an automation game, like and fact like you're not really at any danger of getting killed by anything until you like build stuff. So the threat comes in response to building things, right? Because like the bugs grow, mutate, and attack you based on the pollution that you make. So the bigger you make your base, the more likely you are to be attacked. So it's like kind of like tower defense, survival-y kind of thing, but it's sort of in relation to like what you do. Frostpunk is like a completely different premise. It's the world has basically gone into some kind of ice age, and your people travel from London. It's set in the UK for some reason, or at least the base thing is, although that doesn't really matter. They travel from London in like 1887. It's sort of not our world. It's like a steampunk sort of world with old tech, but there's like some, legendary machinery or whatever. And they travel north because there's these like heat generators that are going to allow them to survive in this like crazy winter. So you start off with this, a handful of people and this like heat generator. And the whole game is like, it's like a radial city builder around the heat generator. And the game's mechanics like revolve around your population, how like there's a dissatisfaction and a hope meter. So depending on what happens there, people like you might riot or revolt against you or like refuse to work and stuff like that. And it's like there's a whole bunch. It's basically a whole bunch of mechanics. There's like an economy side to it because there's like coal, food, wood, steel. And so as well as the city, which you sort of build up, you send scouts out into the outside world to kind of sort of find out a little bit about like what happened outside of your like area and like bring refugees back and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And like, but one of the most important parts about the game is it's like it makes you make hard choices about like what you want to do. So you try and do like the good thing, right? So let's say for example you bring in like raw food. And you have to process raw food into like you can get them to eat raw food, but it's not very efficient. So you process raw food into rations of some kind. 2 foods makes 4 rations, right? So it's like 100% increase, like 1 to 2, and that's fine. But unless you have like quite a lot of people, like food is actually kind of, especially once you start getting like more people, food's like kind of annoying to get. Like you don't get that much to begin with, and you can like kind of start to run out. Especially for me on my first playthrough, because I wasn't really sure what the ratios were going to be for like sending people off for food. And I was like, I was finding it hard to like figure out anyway. I started like running out of food, and so then you kind of have like choices. You have these two books. There's like the book of laws, and you can like start signing laws for things. And it's like with the food one, it's like, okay, you have two choices. You can either unlock unlock soup. So two rations goes to two food stuffs goes to like 5 rations instead. So it like thins the food out a bit, but it causes people dissatisfaction when they eat it. And then the other side of it is to like pad the food out with sawdust. So people feel full, but then they get sick more often. So it's like, which are you gonna, or you could do neither, but like, because you're kind of under pressure, like you kind of have to pick one of them. And it's like that with like lots of things. And it's like, you kind of like need more people than you have. So it's like, are you going to put the kids to work? And so it's like, and so you sign the law, but the hope goes down. But now you have like your workforce like increases by 1/3. And then it's like, okay, well then you have the option. Do you send? So the first one is like have the kids be able to work in like safe jobs. So like there can be accidents in the safe jobs, but like they're not going to die, right? They'll end up getting hurt, but they won't die. And then it's like, there's another law on from that. It's like a tech tree kind of thing, like for sort of a radial tech tree. You do the child safe jobs thing, and then another one unlocks, and you can do one of these like every day. The next one is like children can work in all jobs. So it's like a slippery slope of like slowly like basically doing like worse and worse stuff to like keep people alive. Because if you don't do this thing, then like you might have an existential challenge and everybody might die. So it's like it's very cool because it makes you think a lot. And I actually think the game is a lot better when you kind of like role play it properly, rather than just seeing them as like mindless AI driven automatons. To actually role play it and be like, you get the most out of the game, in my opinion, if you're like, what would I do here?
Yeah.
And like I got a lot of value out. Like it says I played for 15 hours on Steam. It feels like a lot more. Like it feels like a lot more. Like the game was like an experience, even just making those decisions and trying to do the best that you could. And it's very, very cool. It makes you make a lot of hard decisions about resourcing, about who you send where, like what you do with like how much you stockpile, like, and because random stuff happens, and then it's like, oh, now I've like got a real emergency with this or that or whatever, right? And it like throws stuff at you, and the weather goes up and down. It gets like warmer and cooler, so you're trying to like manage how much coal you're burning in the generator, and like you upgrade. There's like loads of upgrades, so you like upgrade the generator so it like burns at a higher heat level. Like the whole thing's basically like done on heat levels. So you've got like an amount of insulation and the outside weather. And as it gets colder and colder, people get sick more often. So you have to upgrade your generator to increase the heat level and also like the radius. But then that burns more coal, so you need more people doing coal. But then that's less people doing food. So it's like the whole thing is like it's just a big like scarce resources game, trying to like reallocate and like slowly go up the tech tree. And it's really, really good. It's really, really good. Like I've like you wrap the whole experience up in like 15 hours, but it's like my perfect kind of game. I can see why like a lot of people say like, oh, it's quite a hard game. I may have got a little bit lucky. There was like some bits which ended up just working out for me. But I would also say that like this kind of game, like traditionally, I'm really good at this kind of game normally. This is like my kind of game. And I had like a near perfect playthrough. I managed to pretty much save every single person on the first go, which I was quite impressed. I mean, it takes some luck as well, of course, because you don't know what it's going to throw at you until you've like gone through it once. So I was like trying to plan for contingencies, like not knowing what the game could do, because I didn't want to look it up because I was like, that's going to really spoil it.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really sure because there's like an end game bit to it as well. So and I wasn't really sure what that was going to do. But yeah, I had like tons of people, loads of resources. I actually had like more coal than I could burn because you couldn't increase the like there was a top to the tech tree. Like you couldn't like burn more coal to get more heat. I was like stuck with like thousands of coal, but I couldn't use them because I wasn't sure like exactly how much I was going to need. Like it was complicated, so it worked out perfectly. But I was really, really pleased. Like I never ended up having to send the kids to the like dangerous jobs. And like even when like you didn't get any bonus for not having like once you'd unlocked the thing, there's actually one thing. There's like a couple of little things that I thought was a small shame. Like once you unlocked the thing, there wasn't really any way of like going back. So once you had like there was like one thing where in your hospitals you could like double the capacity, but people would be like discontented because they would get full up. So normally they only hold like 10 sick people, but you could hold 20. But then there's like people are like really discontent about like crowded medical facilities.
Right.
But at the end game, I had like 5 hospitals because it was like a real bottleneck, and so I did loads. But then when people would come in, like refugees would come in a big block. and we'd get like 25 people who were sick at the same time. 20 of them would go in one hospital and 5 in the other, and 3 would be empty. And the game would be like, oh, crowded medical facilities. People are annoyed, and I'm like, there's loads of empty beds over here. Like, this is stupid. Like, because you couldn't then turn that off and be like, don't overcrowd anymore. Like, I'm done with that. Like that was when I had one hospital and I really needed it. I don't need it now. Turn that off. So there's like a couple of little tiny things there, but there's like, for the most part, the game was like 10 out of 10. It's like 9.8 out of 10. There's like a few quirks. But it was good. It's like, before you have like the hospital stuff, people like get frostbite, then you have to choose whether to keep them like not working or whether to like get them, amputate their limbs and things like this. It's like, it's crazy. There's like, the decisions are hard, but they have like long-reaching consequences because that person's like sort of out the workforce until like much later on in the tech tree. So very cool. Very, very cool game. Can highly rate it after 15 hours. It's like a whole bunch of different scenarios. So I played through the main one. I'm probably going to go through some of the others. I might take a short break from it because it's a very intense experience actually. So I'll take a short break from it, I think, and then probably go back to it and play some of the other campaigns. But it was very, very, very cool. Very cool experience. So definitely worth £2.50, or how it's going to be $3 or something. It's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I guess I'll add it to the list. Another one to be played. Remain in my library for however many years.
Given the main campaign's 15 hours, I think that's actually a reasonable thing.
Yeah.
You could just like pick it up, play the main campaign, and then put it down. That's like a fifth of the time of these like other games. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure if I would have, for £25, I'd have been like, that's like, even if I played all, the other campaigns or whatever, it's like, if you just wanted to play the main campaign, it's like, it feels like quite a lot, but on such a steep discount, then, it's good. It's good.
But does it have a pause button?
It does.
Too easy. Can't do it. Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. Which, as I said, for me is kind of required.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool though. That's cool.
That's good.
I've seen I've seen friends talk about it / recommend it / play it from time to time. So and it says city builder survival resource management was based off the description. That seems pretty accurate. I like the survival / moral components that they try to like bring up in the game. That's cool.
Yeah. It's like City Skylines meets Don't Starve.
Yeah.
Kind of how I would describe it. But yeah, and apparently the second one's coming out soon, which is very smart for them to put it on sale, because I wouldn't have played it if it was £25. But now that I've played the first one and really liked it, I might play it for the second one full price.
They got you. Line
very,
sinker.
very clever. Because there's too many games, right?
Yeah.
There's too many games. So like at £2.50, you could play like 3 hours and be like, I'm not into this, and just leave it.
Yeah.
For £25, it feels kind of bad. Like, it doesn't really matter, but like, you feel like, I want to get more than my money's worth out of it. I think if you play, like, is it an hour? You can only play an hour on Steam and get refund?
It's like 1 or 2 hours. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's like not very long. It's not very long. So Factoria's expansion is coming out towards the end of October as well. Someone in chat was saying, is that the space one? Because that sounds really cool. I'd love to go back to Factoria.
I don't think it is. I have it. I just haven't played it, but it's like a top-down resource management city thing. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, so Factoria's space exploration thing is coming. So yeah, you've not played Factoria, right?
Okay. Yeah. I see. Factoria Space Age. I see. It's like an expansion. Yeah, I have it. I haven't played it. It's in the library.
Factoria is one of those ones that may take a bit longer.
Yeah, it looks pretty intense.
I've played 125 hours of Factoria.
It looks like conveyor belt simulator.
It's awesome. It's really, really good. It reminds me of it's very similar to like Minecraft Tech-It. It's like those mods for Minecraft I used to play with like nuclear power reactors and like pipes pumping stuff from one place to another. It's sort of like Factoria is a little bit like programming. Kind of. It's like a game for programmers, I think, or people who like to think in like a logical thinking and stuff like that. They give you kind of like a messy problem to solve, but because it's very visual, it's very pleasing to solve it. And I always mess up the trains. My trains just never work. You have to think very hard with trains in Factoria because they work like properly, and you kind of automate them, but the automation is very basic. And if you put too many lines together, they somehow inevitably manage to get themselves into gridlock, even though it really doesn't look like it will. Like I think I've done. I've played 125 hours. I've done 3 playthroughs of Factorio.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 or 3. Yeah, I think 3. I think I've been back 3 times. So I probably would wait for the space one to come out before I play again, I think. Because I feel like I've kind of done most of what I wanted to do in the game for now. But it is fun to go back through anyway.
Someone says it's like playing 5D Snake. Looks accurate based off what I'm seeing. A lot of moving lines here.
I'm not sure if it's even an official tagline, but like the communities like, there's like, there's in jokes memes in every community,
Mm-hmm.
but the community's tagline, at least for Factorio, is the factory must grow.
The factory
people just say that all the
grow.
time. Like, and that's the thing. It just, there's no real reason. It just needs to get bigger. You just need to produce more, make it bigger. Like it's cool. I like Factorio. It's good. And it's like, the problem escalates. Like, it's one of those games that does actually benefit from 2 or 3 playthroughs, because you don't know what's coming in the tech tree and what you need to do to get to the higher techs. So the first playthrough is like bottleneck the game, because you build it to do a thing and then you unlock the next tech and it's like, oh, well, now I need to use this. And you're like, oh, but that output's here and that's here and I can't get that from there to here. And you kind of have to redesign everything, but you don't want to like redo it from scratch. So you just like, you Band-Aid fix it. It's like, and then you can see how games like Tarkov end up being spaghetti code, because it's like, you could start from scratch, but it would take forever, right? So you Band-Aid fix it, and then your base is eventually a huge Band-Aid fix, and then nothing works, and it's almost impossible to actually do anything. And like you're like looking at like one of your factories, and you're like, why is it not getting any resources? And you follow it back, and you're like, oh, because this splitter's not outputting anything, because it's like 3 lines are working and the 4th isn't. And then you end up like, if you're anything like me, you end up like going down weird rabbit holes of like, you have 8 independent tracks carrying the same resource. How do you build a system such that no matter how much resource comes in on any track, it equally splits itself across all tracks? And there's like actual like mathematical formulas for some of this stuff. There's like ways of creating like conveyor belts and splitters in such a way that it like load balances all the belts, but doing certain configurations that are quite compact has like a knock-on impact upon the throughput, because like if you've got 2 belts going into one, then it's like half of the throughput and all this stuff. Like, it gets really quite complicated really, really quickly. And you can just copy some designs off the internet. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but like, you run into these issues that you have to try and solve, and they're very like, this is the thing. It's very similar to like programming problems or like engineering logical problems. Like, it's crazy. As somebody in chat said, it's a visual aid for technical debt. Basically, it's like how all coding ends up, like, but visually represented on screen. So unless you have a really good plan and you know exactly what you want to do beforehand, and you know exactly all the inputs and all the outputs. I had a spreadsheet for this based on like what all the ratios of all the different things that you needed were to build this factory to do a specific part of the process. Because otherwise you end up running out of one or another resource, right? It's like everything has to be perfectly in line. Otherwise, the weakest bottlenecks everything. It'll be like, you need 20 circuit boards and 3 blue researchers and one of these things, and that makes the X component, and that goes into something else. It's like output to the next one, to the next one, to the next one.
House of cards.
Impossible chain. Yeah, it's like a house of cards. And so whichever is the least supplied resource within that huge tree, that will then determine the output for like everything. And you can even be bottlenecked by like logistical stuff. It's just like, how much resource can you fit down a conveyor belt type things, where like if you only have like 1 conveyor belt in and 4 machines from like 4 different conveyor belts with splitters, well, you're still only getting 1. So you're like, oh well, I'll build like 4 conveyor belts then. And there's like upgrades to the conveyor belts, but I don't know, it's hard. It's like you need to kind of know how much throughput you need first before you even begin, but you don't know that until you start. So it's one of those things. It's like a testament to building it the first time, screwing it up completely, starting again, and playing it much better the second time. It's like the perfect kind of game like that.
Someone says, sounds like work, but I won't be getting paid.
Yeah, you pay for the privilege. It's much more satisfying than work.
I mean, I feel like there's truth to that in general. Like, really, any game we're playing, you are putting in efforts of some kind to you're binding out fun. But I will say, looking at this video footage and seeing all these conveyor belts, lines, things moving on screen, it's a lot. And visually, for me, it's like a lot of sensory overload that kind of puts me off of it. Like it looks
Yeah,
very intimidating. Like hearing you talk about it versus because the first video I watched on the Steam page is like doesn't have this extreme. Like there's a bits of it, but in this other video, it like zooms out to this massive scope, and there's like just incomprehensible stuff going on in my brain. I'm just like, like it's very intimidating.
that will happen without you realizing because the game starts and you are literally a dude. So it's kind of like Minecraft in that way.
Oh, okay.
Like you start and it is just you. And you slowly, this is why it's so great, right? The progression is like you understanding things bit by bit. So it's like you go and mine some coal and you build a stone mine. And then you put the coal in the stone mine and then it runs and the stone comes out. And then you do the same for iron. And then you build a furnace and then you put the coal in the furnace and then you get this, you put the coal in the iron mine and then you put the iron in the furnace and then it makes you a steel bar and then you can build something else. So it's like it goes like through bit by bit, and then you're making stuff in your inventory, and then you build an automator so you can input stuff and then set it to make something, and then it'll do it on its own. So it's like it slowly
It all
piece
builds
by
upon
piece
itself.
builds up, and then you're like, oh, and I can use a conveyor belt to move stuff from the steel mine to the furnace to a chest. So now I don't have to like either mine the steel manually or supply it with coal because I've got the coal mine supplying itself with coal and then supplying the steel mine with coal, and then it goes to a chest, and now I just have steel ingots coming for free. And it's like, okay. And then it's like, and it builds and builds. Then you're like, okay, well, what do I need for this next thing? Oh, I need 2 like steel bars and I need like 2 copper bars. Okay, well, I need a copper mine now. And then you combine those 2 things together and then you get some piece of research. So you build a lab and then that starts allowing you to do the tech tree. So it's like, it just slowly goes up from there. And then you're like, oh, but the tech's like not going fast enough. So I need rather than having 1 research lab, I need 20. So you make 20 research labs and then you're like, I don't have anywhere near enough inputs for these things. Okay, well, now I need to build 20 mines. So you build 20 mines, then you're like, but now the conveyor belt's full. It's like this is how it goes, right? This is how it goes. So you're just like, it's like it just scales up and up and up and up. And because you start literally just with you and you do everything.
Yeah.
It's like it's not that intimate. You're basically like you sit down at the game and then 12 hours later you're like and you look up and you've got a huge factory. You know, it's like it's one of those games. It's crazy.
Oh my god.
And it's getting light outside.
That sounds like me when I'm modding. Sometimes like just downloading mods and like getting compatibility. It's like I look at the clock. It's been 6 hours. What? Haven't even booted up the game. Just been troubleshooting. But no, that's actually really interesting because I've not really played these types of games like much. But it's interesting to see you verbalize and break down this like component of progression where it's like it's essentially giving you more problems to solve, but it's satisfying to solve the problems. You know what I mean? Which is like
it provides you a problem by virtue of the game's design, as opposed to it being like giving you something. So it gives you like it gives you a whole set of tools, and then it's like, here's how you progress, and then it's like you can solve it any way you like. So it's very self-driven, right? And it's like, well, how do I do the next thing? Okay, well, I could do this or that or the other. And then, not to mention, right, it's still a tower defense game. So the more pollution your factory produces, the more the bugs want to attack you. So there is like, you have a tower. You build guns and gun turrets, and you can build a tank, and eventually you can build like a huge spider mech with lasers and stuff. So like, you can go around fighting the bugs as well. Like it's like a thing that you can do to like because they build these they're basically the Zerg. If you just picture the Zerg, they're pretty much that. So they build like nests with like hatchery type things. There's a couple of different. There's like 2 different types of them and whatever. So you can go and like clear out nests, so you can go and expand out into the further into the map. So you have to build like an offensive capability, and as you produce pollution, they attack you more frequently. So you do need defenses, otherwise you're having to come back constantly. But in like true Tarkov style, it's like you have to make the ammo, and then you have to supply the ammo to the turrets as well. So it's like, well, how are you going to do that? Like, are you going to make a fully automated system supplying it, or are you going to do like a temporary system where you've got like temp storage? But then, because that means that you don't need any like, so you can make it like fully foolproof, but that's not necessary. And this is again another allegory to like programming and stuff. It's like you don't necessarily need to make everything such that it will work for 1,000 years without you. Because if you do, you're going to spend your whole time making everything perfect. Whereas like a couple of crates with full of ammo, with a little miniature conveyor belt and a few these things called inserters, which basically take stuff from a belt and put them into a machine. That will actually do, because that will resupply the gun turrets. You could just dump a bunch of ammo in there and then leave it, and that will be fine for like multiple days. So every time you pop past, you just fill it with a bit more ammo. And like that prevents you then having to build a huge logistical ammo network, which is then going to make your base a complete shit show. Right? So it's like, I'm not going to solve the problem perfectly because it's not necessary. And it's like, using the pneumatic drill on like a, GPU screw or whatever. It's like, it's way too clumsy a solution. It's too robust, right? There can be too robust. And this is then gets you into the practical limitations of like, do I build my program for any conceivable change that I might make in the future? Well, no, because it's going to take you an inordinate amount of programming time to do such a thing. And there's such as the same in this game. So you have to make those kind of trade-offs too. But yeah, you can run around like fighting bugs, like shooting them with machine guns and stuff, and like clearing land and stuff. I find that element of the game, like, because I haven't played any modded versions, I've just played the base game. But it's relatively straightforward. I wouldn't say it's like particularly in depth the combat. Like it's 90% about like the base, 95% even, and 5% about the combat. But it's quite fun to move up the tech tree the first time, go up through the different guns. You have like a little car, like there's a tank, you big Spidertron, lasers. You can get a suit with all sorts of cool stuff in it, like you've got like a mech suit, like Iron Man kind of thing, with like solar panels and whatever. It's neat. It's neat.
I would assume that there's a bit of a dynamicism in either the map location or the bugs themselves coming. You know what I mean? Like it's not like every time you boot up the game, it's the same as experience. You know exactly, you can build that perfect solution. I'm assuming there's, you have to adapt to different scenarios / micro changes, or no?
Yeah. So that's kind of, I would say.
Okay.
Kind of. I would say it's more sandboxy than not. But there's things, there's water in the way. Like you can't just expand. It's not just land forever that's all flat and there's nothing there. Like there'll be like forests in the way, so you have to get rid of the trees. Like sometimes there'll be water there, but you need the water too. So it's like your real bottleneck is the fact that no resource is infinite. And there'll be like, so the world is procedurally generated.
Yeah.
You start in a little place, and then resources are scattered, just evenly distributed across the map. You can change the seed in like loads of different ways, but resources are just like evenly distributed throughout this land. And as you go further out, you just discover more resources of the same type, and they're pretty much uniformly distributed across the map. So you'll have like your iron mine in the first place, your iron deposit, which you like mine from, but that will run out eventually. Like it takes a while, but it'll run out eventually. And so you have to continuously expand outwards if you want to keep growing the factory. So you have to like continuously relinking new fields. Exactly. You have to be relinking like new resource fields into your setup constantly towards the end. Otherwise, you will run out of whatever it is. So there's always something to do in that respect. So you're having to go out and like discover more terrain, and there's bugs out there, and then the terrain might be different. So it might be a big lake. So it's like, I can't build out there. But I would say like it's mostly sandboxy. Like the factory you could probably build the same way each time if you so wished, but you will probably change your approach. And so the terrain matters a bit less. There are cliffs and stuff, you can blow them up. So there's nothing that's really like insurmountable. It's like the videos kind of show that quite well. Like you just deforest areas and yada yada. But it's cool because there's so many different ways of doing it, right? Like you can power the whole thing off coal, you move up to like, so you could do solar if you want, but it only runs in the day. And then there's batteries, which you could build, but it's very expensive. You could do nuclear power. There's like lots of different ways you can kind of solve the problems
Which I guess,
go through.
Because of the procedural map, there is some element of planning. Like, oh, there's more of this resource where I'm located, or because of this map, so I should make my routes like this, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like this resource is here, but it's like hemmed in by a load of like, I don't know, there's like uranium mine over here, but it's like hemmed in by a load of stuff, so I have to like, move my trains around in this particular way and whatever. But yeah, it's mostly about the challenge of just like building the base as opposed to the map per se. And I think especially once you get a bit later on, it's like, well, the alien bases get huge, the insect bases get massive, so they actually got hard to like destroy it at some point.
So that's the goal, is you're trying to outbuild or outscale the alien base.
Ideally, so the game technically finishes when you launch that rocket that just played in that video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's like the end of the tech tree.
I see.
Well, the first bit of the tech tree. But there's like another level above that of stuff. And I think this space expansion is going to be really cool. I don't know what's going to be in that.
Oh, that's so okay. Like, gotcha.
Building one rocket is the technical end of the game. That's when you like win, but you can carry on. And people build these like factories which are of the scale that they are talking about, like pretty much like space rockets per second kind of level.
Oh my god.
Like building one is the end of the game, and people build factories so big they have to worry about, and I can't remember what they call it, but they have to worry about how they build their factories such that the game doesn't tick lower than like a certain number of like, you know, ticks per second or whatever, because otherwise you start making the game lag too much. So people are like optimizing their factories around the performance of the game itself. Yeah, UPS,
so
updates per second. That's the one. Yeah, so you can't do. So most end game ones have use, I think, solar power, because there's no moving parts, there's no conveyor belts, and that's like more efficient for the PC. So people end up using
That
solar
is
more than anything else
so
because it's all
funny.
static and
That's
stuff like that. So like it, yeah. So there's a chat like the community challenge is like once you've launched the rocket, that's like now we can actually play the game. Like it's now it's like make it as big as you can. How big can you get?
yeah.
And people make these insane things, man. It's crazy the stuff people make. They've got like, you know, 5 sub bases, each one the size of my own full base, supplying their main base, which is like 10 times the size of anything I ever made, probably across my 3 playthroughs. And they're just producing like inordinate amounts of stuff. Like it's crazy. A lot of people turn off the bugs for that kind of thing, usually.
Okay.
But I quite like having those things
Sure.
in there. But you know, there are people who play sort of like, it's not creative mode necessarily, but it's sort of semi-creative mode, just to see like what's the theoretical limitation. You can play it either way, right? Like what's the biggest base I can make while it's still defended, or you know, yeah, I don't know. It's super cool. I could talk about it for ages. We should probably finish.
I was gonna say what's funny about this, when you talk about the updates per second limitation, is the game. It's become so meta that the resources in the game are now diminished to where you're actually talking about real life resources of updates per second. It's just like so.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, this thing's crazy. That's so funny.
And you can play multiplayer,
Oh, that's interesting.
by the way.
Like cooperative,
And
or one person can be the bug faction.
no, you play cooperative. I have never played the multiplayer. But you can. What's this one? I was trying to find. There was an article that I saw a while ago about how many people you could get in. They did one which was like a ton of people. Can't remember. Anyway, but apparently, at least, so the world record for Factorio was with 167 people. So let's just put it this way: if you want to play with a bunch of friends, you can. Like, there's not really any limit. There's like, it says somewhere, it's like the hard limit of number of players for the game is 65,535. But obviously, like, real life considerations get in the way before that becomes a problem. But it's like, it's multiplayer on a way that like most games are not, because the game itself is actually quite straightforward, right? In terms of graphical and, you know, things. It's like, it's quite basic. Like, yeah, you can have a lot of stuff going on, but you could have a lot of people in the game. There's not that much to update, I don't think, between clients or whatever. So yeah, you can play it multiplayer if you so wish, which I've not done, but I think it'd be cool.
That's neat. It sounds.
I'd have to convince somebody to do it. I can't remember if it's server oriented. I should, like, if it's server based, I should like have a, you know, like you have like Minecraft community server. Or have like a Factorio community server or something.
Yeah, you can do that.
I've never thought about that, but that'd be cool.
Just to jump, you know, for the people that stuck around for this, to tie it back to Tarkov, I think it's interesting, you know, to analogize when we were talking about Factorio, you were describing the progression system and how like it builds upon itself, you know, and it's like basically creating new problems. I think that's kind of what we're like referencing when we talk about the flea market bans. It's like, imagine in Factorio if you just it's probably a really poor analogy, but it's like if you could just skip straight to the iron giga ore processor, you know, it was just like your restriction wasn't like building up to it. It was just, can you get all the tier 1 resources, if you will, and just, you know what I mean? The kind of like,
yeah, you just have to have like an inordinate amount of wood or something,
exactly,
and then you can just buy it.
Yes, which is kind of like what we're saying with the flea market band. It's like, it's kind of nice to go up the progression and like solve these problems. You know, the problem The problem is I have a really crappy Vepr Hunter that I got off a scav that's broken. To solve this problem, and I could get an RFB, but I gotta like work my way up there, so to speak. Ideally, the top end is the MDR, but I have to like, solve various problems to get there. I think that's like the satisfying part that we were.
Yeah.
That's a good like that we like. I guess like I can appreciate.
Yeah. Like these games, there's a lot of games that are sort of very different, but that's why I kind of put Subnautica is a very different game, but I put it in the same kind of category, right? It's like, how do I get the thing? Well, I can't go deep without getting this research, but I need to, farm this thing, so I need to go and find this thing. It's like the game structure, and you know what? Oftentimes, I find that AI actually just gets in the way. Like human-like AI just gets in the way a lot of the time in these games. It's like the best kind of games are ones where it seems like you're fighting against just like environment in like the strictest sense of the term, like not even like other players. It's like, Factorio, you're fighting mainly against like yourself and your own logistical challenges. Like with Subnautica, you're fighting against like the depth and like resource gathering. With Frostpunk, you're fighting against like the cold, which like comes and goes. And these games are designed in such a way that it's like you and a bunch of challenges, and it feels a lot more like real world. Like this is why sometimes it feels a bit more like real world work, because in real world work, you're very rarely competing directly head to head with somebody, right? It's not like you're playing tennis against someone. Like you're sort of technically competing, like if you're in your business doing one thing, or like you're a salesperson, you're trying to beat other sales, but like you're not like going in like back to back, like having an actual contest with anybody per se. You're sort of like doing whatever you're doing. So a lot of jobs are like more like that, like fighting logistical challenges or this, that, and the other, like managing stuff. Yeah, that kind of thing. So it feels more like that in some ways, but these things are obviously a lot more satisfying because the really annoying stuff from the real world is like taken away. I've thought about this a lot. This is like the really painful things in the real world is just like, just stuff like, I don't even know what's the word, like bureaucratic, like things, processes that you just have to follow for whatever reason, or the inability to change stuff. Like the games are like so much more streamlined and so much more satisfying in that way, but they give you the same sense of accomplishment.
It's fun.
It's interesting. The real world's really messy. You can do whatever, but like there's a lot of problems. There's like real pain to get through half the problems. So it's like the game world is like more streamlined, and you can know what things will do most of the time. It's like very deterministic in that sense too, which is like for people like me, I like really like that kind of thing. It's like if I know exactly what it's going to do, then I can plan properly, and then when it works, I'm just like, oh, this is great. But it's almost a bit like what you were talking about with Marvel Snap like a couple of weeks ago about like things that are random, because in like say Frostpunk, like the weather changes randomly and you don't know what's coming until like 3 days ahead. So you're sort of like planning you're planning within like the known unknowns, right? You're like, oh, how much colder can it get? What do I need if it did X or Y? Okay, well then I should be okay, or at least this is what I'll do if such a thing happens. It's interesting, yeah. The randomness thing element to it as well is like kind of interesting. Factorio is much less random, much more deterministic, but they're sort of similar, right? There's like more or less of the same kinds of category.
I think this will be the last thing for me. I think another analogy that I don't know exactly what ties to, but it's like, you get a giant, those puzzle sets that's like 10,000 pieces, right? And it's like they just someone dumps all the puzzle pieces for you, and they're like, okay, solve it in the first go. And it's like, that's not how you do it. You start small puzzle pieces that make up a smaller part of it. It's like, oh, yeah, this little piece connects with this piece because I can see the pictures align. You do that, and you get a bigger one. It's similar. I think it's like the game would be so overwhelming if it just like dumped everything onto you, like, which is kind of like how Dota was, very like in a way, like it tried to tutorialize it a bit. There was like a limited hero mode, but it actually did dump the game on you. You just had to go read the manual, aka the wiki, and watch 8-hour videos of Purge gamers.
Yeah, exactly. I think my sister's referred to me before as the Purge of Tarkov.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah, a bit. Yeah,
quite funny.
If only we could do 8-hour patch note now. I miss watching the Purge videos. Honestly, it's like kind of fun just to play it in the background. Like
endless mine of content. That being able to talk about every hero, like, oh my god, that's so good. So good. Those two is a perfect game for a YouTube channel, except for it's just long in the tooth is the only problem. And too
Yeah.
established. Hardest jigsaw I ever did. I actually went back a separate weekend to my father-in-law's house because he had a Where's Wally jigsaw, which is Where's Waldo for you guys, and finished that. And that was so hard because everything looked identical that the last. So obviously we did all the sides. The last section, which was like almost impossible to do, I ended up. And this is why I like these kind of games. We went back for a weekend, kind of to do this jigsaw. Like my wife kind of wanted to do it, and I really did want to finish this thing. And I categorized all the pieces by shape.
Oh.
In order to actually put them in the right place, because it was impossible to see where they were going to go. They were all the same, like broadly, and the only way to finish it was by shape. It was the hardest jigsaw that I've ever done. It was crazy. So I had to like literally each shape and stack them into each shape, and then look at the shape on the thing and be like, right, it can only be this set of this stack for this next piece, and then kind of go through them trial and error. It was like, again, it was like a programming challenge or like a logical thinking challenge. You know, it's like what's the way to solve this when no piece is indistinguishable on the picture from any other piece?
That's
And that is the reason why I like these kind of games, because I'm very strange.
That's interesting because it's like a subversion of expectations. You know, normally expect to match it via the picture, but instead you had to reduce the variables by matching, categorizing them in shapes, which helped.
I think it was because I can't remember exactly how it went, but I think it was the sky section. I think the top third of the sky, I think it was just pure white.
Oh yeah.
And there was no pattern on any of it. It was just all white, all exactly the same. And there was probably, I don't know, like maybe 200 pieces, 300 pieces of just all white.
Yikes.
And so there's only way to do it by shape.
Yeah.
You have to do trial and error, like deduction, and slowly work through it and see which one's going to go where. And my father's never actually forgotten. Like sometimes he brings it up and he's just like, "Do you remember that weekend where you came up just to do this quite crazy thing? I can't believe you actually did that." Just like, yep, that's just that's how I roll.
That's so funny. That's cool though.
Right, we are gonna have to wrap up.
Yeah, it's been a long one. We gotta wrap it up, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week.
Bye. Cool. Oh, I had fun though, man. That's good. I don't mind going long when we have a lot of fun. I was supposed to do like a bunch of other stuff, but like obviously we started a bit late because I was a bit late, and then we went on for an extra